Thundering hooves pound the earth, kicking up clouds of dust. A carriage wheel spins violently, pushed far beyond its limits. Panicked horses strain, pulling the rattling coach at a breakneck speed. A monstrous black wolf, crackling with dark energy, leaps through the air. A larger, boar-headed beast leads the pursuit with a ferocious snarl. Inside, Gil desperately urges his lady to hold on tight. Arshuna cries out that the monsters are right behind them. She screams as another violent lurch throws her against the wall. A sturdy boot plants itself firmly upon a rocky outcrop. A close-up reveals the high-powered scope of a modern sniper rifle. A young man, Ataru, stands calmly, surveying the chaos below. From his high vantage point, he watches the desperate chase unfold. He shields his eyes, observing that they are undoubtedly in trouble. He watches as the carriage finally succumbs, overturning in a crash. Arshuna cries out as she is thrown clear from the wreckage. A menacing wolf beast emerges from the settling dust, growling. The monstrous pack closes in, circling the dazed Arshuna. She weakly tells Gil to flee and save himself. A monster's maw opens wide, its dagger-like teeth ready to strike. Arshuna squeezes her eyes shut, bracing for the killing blow. The beast reels back, its head erupting in a violent flash. Her eyes fly open in shock, her face splattered with gore. She lets out a small, stunned gasp, not understanding what happened. Through a sniper's scope, the chaotic scene is perfectly clear. The other monsters halt their advance, startled by the sudden death. From his perch, Ataru calmly takes aim at the remaining beasts. A memory surfaces of a godlike being offering a special service. The being promised to grant him any weapon he wished. He recalls the entity mentioning a weapon from his world, a gun. The memory shows the being asking if a gun would be his choice. In the present, a bullet slams into the boar-headed monster. The force of the impact sends the massive creature stumbling back. Another shot rings out, striking the beast with explosive force. The wounded monster looks up, finally spotting its distant attacker. Ataru muses that his shots are landing well for a practice run. He sees the monster now using its axe to block its head. With a slight smirk, he adjusts his aim to a new target. He whispers a final goodbye before pulling the trigger again. The rifle cracks, the bullet finding its mark with a flash. The monster looks down in confusion at its smoking limb. Its leg shatters, and it collapses to the ground in pain. The sky is calm and clear, the violent chase now over. Ataru mentally notes he's gained bullet points from 4 monsters. He decides to craft special ammo while the survivors are resting. His interface displays options for thunder and flame bullets. He selects the hyper-healing bullet, deeming it essential. Arshuna stirs, letting out a soft groan as she awakens. She sits up with a jolt, looking around in panicked confusion. Her eyes snap open as she tries to recall what happened. She rushes to Gil's side, urging him to wake up. Gil's eyes flutter open, asking if his lady is unharmed. Arshuna, her eyes wet with tears, expresses her relief. Ataru approaches them, calmly asking if they are okay. He looks at them with a neutral, slightly detached expression. Arshuna's relief turns to suspicion as she asks who he is. She mistakenly concludes he's an adventurer hired by her uncle. She warns him to stay back, vowing she will never forgive him. She reassures Gil, declaring that she will protect him. She demands to know if he understands, warning him not to touch them. She tells him to inform her uncle they will never surrender. Realizing her grave mistake, she bows in a deep apology. Ataru, surprised, tells her it's fine and to not worry. He says her confusion was understandable given the chaotic situation. Arshuna is mortified, blushing at her behavior towards their savior. Gil also apologizes profusely, blaming himself for his fear. Ataru dismisses it, saying a ride to town is thanks enough. Arshuna, her cheeks flushed, remarks on his kindness. Safely in the carriage, he introduces himself as Ataru, a traveler. He asks if it isn't dangerous for them to travel without guards. Arshuna shyly addresses him with the honorific Sama. She formally introduces herself as Arshuna, and Gil as her attendant. Gil explains they are nobles heading to Lif with an escort. He reveals their adventurers were secretly agents of Arshuna's uncle. Their goal was to use her as a hostage against her father. Ataru wonders how Gil knew the plot without the leader present. Arshuna explains they seized a moment to escape the traitors. Ataru's expression shifts as his senses detect another threat. He stands, telling them he will scout for more monsters. He reassures them not to worry, saying it is just a precaution. Arshuna watches in surprise as he begins to climb out. He nimbly scales the side of the moving carriage to the roof. Lying prone, he activates the silencer mode on his rifle. Through his scope, he spots another pack of monsters in the distance. He fires a silent shot, a flash of light erupting from the barrel. The distant monster is vaporized in a burst of white light. A notification for +10 bullet point appears in his vision. More points float toward him as he eliminates the entire pack. Gil calls out from inside, asking about the situation. Ataru leans down, telling them the area is clear and to relax. Arshuna smiles, wishing their journey could always be so peaceful. Their carriage finally approaches the towering walls of a great city. They arrive at a grand and opulent mansion. Inside, a heavy leather satchel thuds onto a polished table. It bursts open, spilling a glittering hoard of gold coins. Ataru stares at the fortune, completely stunned into silence. The Lord gestures to the payment, offering to bring even more. Ataru protests that it's far too much for killing a few monsters. Gil insists it's a fair reward for saving their lives. Arshuna sweetly offers him more sweets, agreeing with Gil. Ataru realizes this vast sum is more than a simple reward. Ataru realizes this payment is a political necessity they cannot publicly announce. He understands if word got out, the Lord's family would be in trouble. Ataru agrees to accept the reward, knowing it's the best option for them. The Lord expresses his relief, thankful for Ataru's shrewd understanding of the situation. In the opulent room, the Lord formally addresses the young man as Atarudano. He thanks Ataru again for saving his daughter Arshuna and her attendant. His own weakness, he laments, almost cost him his family's lives. No amount of gratitude is enough, Ataru is truly their savior. The business concludes within the magnificent, sprawling mansion of the noble house. Ataru asks for a favor, needing to learn the city's culture. Arshuna eagerly volunteers to teach him, telling him to ask her anything. Ataru is taken aback by her sudden, enthusiastic offer to help. The Lord gently interjects, telling his daughter Arshuna to wait. He astutely notes Ataru needs more than just their noble perspective. Arshuna pouts, her cheeks puffed out in clear disappointment at his words. The Lord seeks a suitable guide, calling for his attendant, Gil. Gil offers a pragmatic solution: Ataru should consider purchasing a slave. Arshuna gasps in shock, her hands flying to cover her mouth. Ataru repeats the word slave, the concept completely foreign to him. Gil calmly confirms his suggestion with a simple yes. He explains that slavery is legal, handled only by licensed merchants. Gil continues, saying anyone can purchase one for the right price. He formally suggests Ataru should visit a slave merchant for himself. The suggestion is underscored by the image of a broken, caged girl. Ataru finds himself in a vast, ethereal library, utterly bewildered. He stares at the endless shelves, wondering where he is. He questions his presence, wondering why he is in a library. A calm, aged voice cuts through his confusion, stating he's awake. Ataru turns, demanding to know the identity of the mysterious figure. With a gentle chuckle, the robed being introduces himself as God. Ataru shouts in disbelief, shocked by the impossible revelation. God acknowledges his confusion is natural, pleased by his quick understanding. Ataru struggles to recall his last moments before arriving in this place. In a timeless library, Ataru admits he cannot remember his last moments. The godlike figure offers to explain the circumstances of Ataru's demise. With grave finality, the deity reveals that Ataru was stabbed from behind. The young man's eyes widen in shock as he learns it was an intruder. The story transitions to the present, marking the beginning of the second chapter. A grand mansion stands under a partly cloudy sky, a symbol of nobility. Back in the present, Ataru struggles with the concept of slavery, a forbidden practice in his world. The four figures stand in the opulent drawing room, the atmosphere suddenly tense. Arshuna flushes with embarrassment at her attendant's blunt suggestion. Ataru reflects internally, admitting he can't quite grasp this world's version of slavery. The attendant, Gil, offers to provide a more detailed explanation. Gil clarifies that slavery is a legal, regulated institution handled by licensed merchants. He adds that many slaves are well versed in local culture, making them ideal guides. Gil attempts to assuage any moral concerns, assuring him their treatment is not cruel. He speculates that Ataru's hesitation stems from this very concern. A sudden jolt of energy runs through Ataru, causing him to react in surprise. A glowing, complex sigil flares to life in his right eye, reacting to the word slave. The Lord notices the strange phenomenon, wondering if Ataru's eye just reacted. The ever-observant Arshuna calls out to Ataru, her voice filled with concern. She asks if he is alright, offering him a guest room to rest. Ataru quickly brushes it off, saying he was just lost in thought and should leave. Arshuna looks up at him, her expression filled with gratitude. She passionately insists that he stay the night as a small token of their thanks. The Lord agrees, and Ataru accepts, musing on the world's different customs. Later, Ataru stands before a different, less opulent building, ready for his next task. With a determined expression, he approaches the entrance of the slave trader's establishment. His profile is serious as he steps through the doorway into the unknown. A large, imposing figure greets him loudly as he enters the dimly lit hall. The man, Baba, introduces himself as a slave merchant with a wide variety of products. Ataru listens, his expression cool and analytical, revealing nothing. Baba, the one-eyed merchant, seems intrigued by his new client's composure. He obsequiously asks Ataru to state his requirements for a new slave. Standing tall, Ataru considers the request, while Baba gestures for him to name his terms. The eye-patched slave trader, Baba, eagerly offers to introduce his finest wares. Ataru considers his needs, deciding he wants someone who won't stand out. He requests a travel companion who is around his own age, not too old. Ataru thinks about adding one final, very important condition to his request. He specifies that he needs someone who can be trusted to keep secrets. Baba understands perfectly and prepares to show Ataru his selection of slaves. The slave trader leads Ataru up a flight of stairs to the cells. Baba fumbles with his keys, unlocking a large, heavy door for his customer. With a dramatic pause, the slave trader prepares for the grand reveal. He grandly invites Ataru to behold the pride of his establishment. The first slave revealed is a stunning woman, but Ataru is unmoved. The glamorous woman poses alluringly, but she does not fit his criteria. Next, a younger, cute girl is presented, looking shy and innocent. Baba explains they are fallen nobles, but Ataru dismisses them with a wave. Baba assures him that even the nobles can be disciplined to his liking. Ataru impatiently brushes past the sales pitch, demanding to see the next slave. A heavily scarred and muscular human warrior is revealed in the next cell. A powerful dragonkin with horns and scales glares out from his cage. The dragonkin speaks, but Ataru thinks he is far too conspicuous for his needs. Baba laughs, sure that seeing his wares will eventually sway the discerning customer. Ataru cuts off the salesman, his attention suddenly fixed on something else. His focus is drawn to a single, heavily reinforced door down the hall. Ataru's gaze intensifies as he senses something strange from the isolated door. A strange, spiraling sigil flashes in his eye, reacting to an unseen presence. The plain, barred wooden door seems to hold a profound secret within. Baba is startled when Ataru points and asks about the mysterious door. Ataru senses someone is inside and firmly tells Baba to guide him there. The slave trader sweats nervously, clearly against showing him this particular slave. Baba reluctantly agrees, stammering that he really doesn't recommend this one. They walk down a grim hall as Baba calls the slave a charity case. Ataru feels his special eye reacting strongly to the presence behind the door. Ataru observes that this corridor is much darker than the others they've seen. Ataru questions the legality of her treatment, causing the trader to panic. An official confirms they have state permission, but Ataru sharply commands them to wait before bringing a light. In the oppressive darkness of the cell, the girl's eyes flew open with shock. The door exploded inward, sending bodies flying as Ataru appeared in the threshold. He gave a sharp command for light, and to bring it quickly. The lantern's glow revealed the girl huddled in a corner, breathing in ragged gasps. The slave trader, Baba, began his pitch, explaining that she was a beastkin child. He continued, noting her history was unknown, save for her burns and damaged ear. Her limbs were also injured, and recently, she had all but stopped eating. The girl whispered to herself, accepting that she would not last much longer. Ataru looked down at the broken figure, his expression serious and focused. He confirmed his suspicion in a low voice, realizing it was her he had sensed. He strode forward, stunning Baba, who stammered about what the customer was doing. Ataru gently lifted the frail, barely conscious girl into his arms. He turned to the slaver and ordered him to prepare the contract for this one. An image of the contract appears, detailing the subsequent slave crest ceremony. In his office, Baba explained the legal terms of the contract to Ataru. He noted that Ataru must decide the slave's fate in the event of his death. Ataru asked what was typically done in such situations. Baba listed options like release or inheritance, noting the latter was rare but possible. Ataru understood, and Baba told him he could decide later. A knock came at the door, an assistant announced that preparations were complete. Baba gave the order to let them through. The assistant entered, guiding the girl, now cleaned and in a simple tunic. A close-up showed her torn beastskin ear, a permanent mark of her past trauma. Her feet and ankles were still wrapped in crude, dirty bandages. The assistant presented the girl to Ataru and her current owner. The two stood face to face, the master and the one to be enslaved. Ataru introduced himself simply as Ataru, and asked for her name. The girl looked down, her face a mask of sorrow and hesitation. The assistant prompted her, stating this man was her new master. The girl flinched, the weight of the word master striking her like a blow. She whispered her name so quietly it was almost lost, Kiero. Tears began to stream down her face as she begged him to have pity on her. Her plea was cut short by a violent, body-racking cough. Baba grumbled about her causing a scene, but Ataru calmly said it was fine. Kiero continued to sob, overwhelmed by her despair. Ataru, his face set like stone, told them to proceed with the ceremony. They moved to a grand, vaulted chamber designed for such rituals. An officiant announced the beginning of the slave crest ceremony upon a magic circle. She presented a metal collar, explaining it was a mandatory proof of servitude. Ataru took the collar, his expression unreadable. Kiero watched with empty, resigned eyes, her fate sealed. He gently brought the cool metal ring to her neck. The collar clicked shut with a sharp, final sound. The officiant then explained the next step was sealing the contract. A blood seal was required, made by pricking a finger. Ataru held up his bleeding finger, ready to finalize the pact. He pressed a firm, crimson thumbprint onto the parchment. The officiant gently told Kiero that it was now her turn. She reassured the frightened girl that it would only sting a little. Kiero meekly added her own small, bloody print to the document. The officiant held the contract aloft and began an ancient, melodic chant. As she intoned the magical words, a strange energy began to gather. A brilliant, singular orb of light materialized between her hands. Ataru watched the magical display with a calm, analytical gaze. Kiero kept her head bowed, her expression hidden by her hair. The officiant explained that Kiero must consume this light to finish the ritual. Ataru held the orb, telling Kiero to take her time. He gently cupped her face, telling her not to force it. Trusting his kind words, she slowly opened her mouth. She closed her eyes as the warm light drifted into her. The collar around her neck blazed with a powerful, magical light. The entire magic circle on the floor flared, sealing their bond. Ataru looked at her, saying it was a pleasure to meet her again. Kiero replied that her name was Kiero, and it was a pleasure to meet him. They departed the slave trader's establishment, leaving the city behind. Ataru and his new companion walked away from the grand building together. From the portico, Baba and the officiant watched them go. The woman hoped that Kiero would be cherished until her contract ended. Baba scoffed, saying that only God knew what their new customer was truly capable of. He mused that he had sensed something special about the young man. For the girl's sake, he decided to trust his discerning eye. In the desolate lands outside the city, Ataru carried the exhausted Kiero. She rested against his shoulder, her small form light in his arms. A sudden coughing fit shook her frail body. He asked if the sun was too harsh, but she insisted she was fine. He continued walking, noting they were now a good distance from the city. He decided that here, they were far enough away that no one would see them. He gently set her down, asking if she could stand, and told her to lean on a rock. Kneeling before her, he said there was something he needed to ask. He asked if she truly wanted to be cured of all her injuries. Her eye widened in disbelief, the question too impossible to comprehend. She was racked by another coughing spell, unable to speak. She finally managed to get a few words out. It was useless, she explained, she could not be healed. Ataru pressed on, asking what she would do if a way did exist. She insisted that no such method could be found anywhere in this world. She had wished and hoped for so long, but her prayers were never answered. Again, she stated with certainty that no such cure existed. Ataru listened patiently, then quietly said, "But..." Kiero recalled the light from the ceremony, as beautiful as a starry night sky. She confessed she didn't understand why he bought her, or what would happen now. A flashback shows the officiant, her words echoing about the beautiful light. Kiero admitted that seeing it felt like one small wish had been granted. Ataru knelt before her, asking her to listen to one more question. He looked her directly in the eyes, asking again, "Do you want to be cured?" The final question shattered her remaining composure. Tears streamed down her face as she screamed that she wanted to be cured. She sobbed uncontrollably, all her pent-up despair finally released. Ataru stood, raising his rifle, and said that was all he needed to hear. His eye glowed with power as he mentally selected the correct bullet. Ataru's mental interface cycles through his ammunition choices, including special fire and thunder bullets. He makes his final, most unusual selection, the powerful, hyper-healing bullet. In the desolate, rocky landscape, Ataru takes aim directly at the waiting, terrified Kiero. Holding the rifle steady, he asks her if she understands what this weapon is. His gaze is intense and serious as he then asks her if she is afraid. Tears stream down Kiero's face as she admits she doesn't know what it is. Her voice trembling with fear, she confesses that she is incredibly scared. Looking her directly in the eyes, he pleads, "Kiero, trust me." His eyes are filled with an unwavering, absolute resolve. A single tear traces a path down her cheek as she looks up at him. He holds the massive rifle steady, his finger resting on the trigger. Squeezing her eyes shut against her fear, she whispers her consent. The rifle cracks, and Kiero's small form is consumed by a blinding flash of light. A vortex of brilliant light and raw energy washes over everything. She finds herself floating weightlessly in a gentle, ethereal void. She is enveloped in a kind, warm light, wondering what is happening to her. The profound warmth intensifies into a surprising heat that spreads throughout her body. A sharp, clean pain lances through her leg, a sensation she had long since forgotten. She realizes with a jolt that this nostalgic ache is her own pain, a sign of life. The light fades, and the world of rocks and sky snaps back into focus. She pushes herself up from the ground, her body feeling whole and impossibly strong. Looking at her own hands in disbelief, she wonders what has just happened. Ataru watches her from a distance, waiting as she processes the miracle. He remarks that she has a cute voice, guessing that this is how she truly sounds. His simple, validating words cause the full weight of the moment to crash down on her. Overcome with a tidal wave of emotion, she scrambles to her feet and rushes towards him. She throws her arms around him, wailing his name in a raw, cathartic release. Her sobs echo across the empty landscape as the scene fades. An hour passes, and Ataru patiently holds Kiero as she cries, until she finally calms. Pulling back, her face tear-stained, she apologizes for having troubled him with her outburst. He gently pats her head with a soft, reassuring sound. Looking at her kindly, he asks if she has finally settled down. They stand close together, the emotional storm having finally passed between them. A deep blush spreads across her cheeks as she looks away shyly. He asks her to stand up and move a little, wanting to confirm her body's recovery. She looks at her own hands, still processing the impossible reality of her healing. She stretches and twists, her movements fluid and filled with a vibrant, boundless energy. He smiles to himself, satisfied that the forced healing bullet was a complete success. The simple tunic she wears now reveals a surprisingly healthy and well-developed figure. He quickly averts his gaze, a slight, flustered blush on his cheeks. She turns to him, overjoyed, exclaiming that she can move and that everything is all right. Fresh tears of pure happiness stream down her face as she thanks him profusely. Overcome with gratitude, she rushes to embrace him again, crying out his name. Ataru gently stops her, telling her not to overdo it so soon after being healed. She looks up at him, her expression earnest as she asks why he would do this for her. He says they have much to discuss, but first, they must do something about her clothes. He decides they will return to the city, and she readily agrees. They make their way through the elegant, stone-paved streets of the city. Their first stop is a high-end clothing boutique with beautiful dresses in the window. A flamboyant, mustachioed shopkeeper theatrically presents Kiero's transformative new look. He proudly declares her frilly new dress to be the Arshuna style, inspired by the Lord's daughter. Ataru thinks it looks good on her and asks for her honest opinion. She looks down, a hesitant expression on her face as she considers her words. She says the dress is beautiful, but she feels she is unworthy of something so fine. He gently tells her to speak her mind, as he needs to understand her thoughts. Gathering her courage, she agrees and begins to explain her feelings. She wants to be useful to him, and needs practical clothes for facing danger by his side. The shopkeeper strokes his mustache, listening thoughtfully to her request. She trails off, embarrassed by her own forwardness in front of the shopkeeper. He understands, noting that as a beastkin, she likely has impressive physical abilities. Winking, he realizes she needs an outfit better suited for protecting her master. She emerges in a new, practical adventurer's outfit, looking confident and capable. Ataru agrees that it suits her much better, and she thanks him with a radiant smile. A genuine, unrestrained smile of pure happiness lights up her entire face. He looks at her, a soft, approving smile on his own face as he watches her. Now properly clothed, Ataru decides their next task is to find an inn for the night. He asks Kiero if she knows a good place, but she apologizes for her ignorance. She explains that she has barely been out in the city since being sold to the slave trader. He understands her situation and says that it can't be helped. As he decides where to look first, a cheerful voice calls out to them. A young cat girl in a maid's uniform approaches, inviting them to her establishment. She enthusiastically grabs Ataru's leg, declaring that her inn is the most popular in town. Kiero is flustered by the cat girl's boundless energy, pointing her out to Ataru. The energetic maid assures them that the inn is just around the corner. She proudly presents her inn, the beautiful and welcoming Spirit's Arbor Inn. Winking, she introduces herself as Furana, the inn's poster girl, and welcomes them. The lobby of the inn is cozy and well appointed with comfortable furniture. The architecture is charming, with arched windows and sturdy wooden doors. A clean, polished wooden staircase leads to the rooms on the upper floors. Ataru decides the place seems nice, and to Furana's delight, agrees they will stay. Furana cheers and excitedly leads them upstairs to meet her mother. Her mother, a large and kind-faced catwoman, apologizes for her daughter's boisterousness. Ataru informs the proprietress that they would like to book a room for 7 days. The mother praises Furana for bringing in such good, long-staying customers. She asks them to sign the guest book while she calculates the advance payment for their stay. Furana approaches Kiero, correctly guessing that the quiet young man is her master. She winks conspiratorially, boasting that therein has a famous natural hot spring. As a special treat, she offers to let the two of them use the large bath privately for an hour. Leaning close, she whispers a mischievous suggestion that Kiero could wash her master's back. Kiero smiles, not yet processing the full implication of the maid's words. The suggestion hits her, and her face flushes a deep crimson as her mind short-circuits. Ataru, business concluded, tells Kiero it's time to head up to their room. She shyly stops him, her hand hovering near his side as she tries to speak. Her fingers tentatively reach out to get his attention, but she hesitates. She quickly pulls her hand back, too flustered to properly form the words. He turns, noticing her hesitation, and asks what's the matter. She nervously explains Furana's offer to let them use the bath privately for an hour. Ataru thinks that's a great idea and suggests they have a bath before dinner. He notices her strange, shadowed expression and asks if something is wrong. Unable to speak, she internally screams the embarrassing suggestion about washing his back. Ataru is completely flustered, a deep blush coloring his cheeks. He tells Kiero not to worry and to go ahead into the bath first. He insists it's fine and that she should take her time and relax. Kiero steps into the vast, steaming hot spring, the sound of water echoing softly. She marvels at the size of the bath, realizing it's her first time. Her beastkin ears twitch as she notices her own reflection in the water. She realizes the water's still surface is acting as a perfect mirror. Her clear, healthy face stares back at her from the water's surface. She touches her cheek in shock, realizing her terrible burn scar has completely vanished. Back in their room, she knocks and announces her return to Ataru. He acknowledges her and says that he will go take his bath now. He turns to leave, his back to her as she stands quietly by the door. She thanks him for letting her go first, but he says she could have stayed longer. He turns and is surprised to see her kneeling formally on the floor. She explains that she will now demonstrate the proper conduct she was taught. He moves quickly, taking her by the arm to stop her. He tells her she doesn't have to do that anymore and helps her up. He sits her down beside him on the bed, much to her flustered surprise. She looks up at him, confused by his actions, and begins to protest. She reminds him that, despite everything, she is still his slave. Ataru asks her to listen, acknowledging their contractual master-slave relationship. He admits that his way of thinking might seem strange in this world. He asks her to treat him as a partner or a friend, not as a master. They sit together on the bed in a moment of quiet, transformative understanding. Kiero stares at him, her mind trying to process his radical proposition. A slow, heartfelt smile spreads across her face as she accepts his offer. Ataru smiles back, their new partnership now established between them. The quiet moment is suddenly interrupted by a loud, rumbling growl. Ataru apologizes and suggests they eat first, putting off his bath. He decides that first, he should store his rifle and extra money. He prepares to use his unique subspace storage ability in front of her. A shower of gleaming gold coins appears as if from thin air. Kiero gasps in shock as he pours a fortune from a tiny pouch. Ataru looks over at her, noticing her completely stunned expression. Kiero can only stare back, her face a mask of awe and disbelief. He asks if this kind of impossible feat is uncommon in her world. She confirms that this is the first time she has ever seen such a thing. In a memory, Ataru stands before God, having finalized his new abilities. The deity asks him how he intends to manage all of his belongings. God lists the rifle, ammo, and money as a lot of baggage to carry. Ataru realizes that God has raised a very practical and important point. He quickly thinks of a convenient solution based on concepts from his old world. He suggests a subspace that opens and sucks in his items for storage. God chuckles, amused by the idea, and gives his divine approval. Ataru feels a sense of satisfaction, his storage problem now solved. Back in the present, he prepares to explain his power to a still shocked Kiero. He realizes he has been using his unique abilities quite carelessly since arriving. He gets Kiero's attention, preparing to confide in her completely. He admits with a weary sigh that he is capable of such feats. Kiero asks if all the people from his homeland possess such mysterious powers. He clarifies that this power is probably unique only to him. He asks her to keep his abilities a secret, as he wants to avoid standing out. He then tells her that he has one more important favor to ask of her. He asks her to be his guide to normalcy and point out when he acts strangely. Kiero clenches her fists, eagerly agreeing to help him in any way she can. Ataru smiles warmly, telling her that she will be a great help to him. Kiero's eyes shine with a fierce, newfound sense of purpose and loyalty. She reflects on his mysterious tools and his incredible, world-defying abilities. She realizes he must be feeling anxious and alone in this strange, new land. She is deeply moved that he chose her and entrusted her with his secrets. Her hands come together in a silent, heartfelt prayer of dedication. She vows to herself that she will help Ataru-sama with everything she has. Ataru materializes his rifle, deciding to explain its nature to her now. Kiero immediately recognizes it as the weapon he used to heal her. He explains it's his rifle, a weapon that uses magic for long-range attacks. He lets her hold it, and she grunts, struggling with its surprising weight. He assures her that it has a user restriction, so only he can wield it. He tells her that the rifle's existence is another one of their shared secrets. She agrees with a shy, conspiratorial smile, their bond of trust deepening. Her stomach lets out another loud, insistent growl, startling her. Ataru is taken by surprise, calling out her name as she clutches her middle. He apologizes, having forgotten that her body just finished healing. She leans against him, blushing as she admits that she is very hungry. They look at each other, the serious atmosphere completely broken by her appetite. A magnificent and opulent feast is laid out before them at the inn. Ataru is already happily digging into the incredible spread of delicious food. Kiero is so overwhelmed by the sight of real food that she begins to cry. They enjoy the life-altering meal together, a moment of pure, simple happiness. The innkeeper, Furana, bustles about, serving the happy customers with a smile. Her mother, the chef, cooks with a joyful grin in the bustling kitchen. After their meal, Kiero timidly asks Ataru if she can speak with him. Ataru agrees without hesitation, taking a casual sip from his teacup. She asks him if he has a specific purpose for coming to this city. He muses that he both has and doesn't have a clear purpose. He explains his plan to use the inn as a base to learn about the world. Kiero thoughtfully suggests they register with the city's Adventurers Guild. She asks him what he thinks of her practical and well-reasoned idea. Intrigued, Ataru asks her to explain the guild in more detail. Kiero clears her throat, preparing to give a thorough and formal explanation. She explains the guild introduces adventurers to various requests from all over. She confirms that this very city has its own guild branch. These quests are ranked by difficulty, with rewards paid for successful completion. She notes that some quests require high combat skill against monsters. But she believes adventurers do noble work by helping those in need. She adds that it's the best way for them to learn about the region. Ataru agrees, realizing her plan aligns perfectly with his own goals. He asks if an outsider like him can register, and she happily says yes. He then asks if she can register, but she sadly says she cannot. She eagerly offers to support him and help him complete his requests. He asks if she is truly capable of fighting, and she confidently says yes. Ataru looks at Kiero, asking her to make a choice about their future. With fierce determination, Kiero clenches her fists and declares that she can fight. Ataru recalls God's words, defeating monsters in this world grants greater power. He knows the path is dangerous, but trusts in Kiero's innate beastkin strength. His decision made, Ataru announces they will register at the guild tomorrow. Kiero's face lights up with joy, and she gives an enthusiastic yes. He insists they must get her gear first, but she worries about the cost. Ataru explains the constant danger, having already encountered monsters on his journey. He tells her that providing her with equipment is his duty as her partner. Their destination is a weapon and armor shop known as Bob's. Inside, they stand together, ready to find the perfect gear for Kiero. The shop's walls are lined with a formidable arsenal of gleaming steel swords. Ataru scans the selection, his mind already calculating the best choice for her. He knows her greatest asset is her speed, a gift of her beastkin heritage. His focus sharpens as he formulates a plan for her combat style. He asks what weapon she wants, suggesting a one-handed sword might feel familiar. She admits to having some training, but confesses she lacks true skill. He encourages her, saying any experience is a good place to start from. Worried she'll be a burden, he reassures her that it is okay to fail. She looks up at him, her heart touched by his kind and patient words. A large, cheerful woman approaches them, offering to help find a weapon. She recommends a lightweight bronze sword, praising its power and ease of use. Introducing herself as Bob's, she suggests a trial against a training golem. Ataru repeats the name of the training golem, his interest clearly piqued. The automaton explains it is a training dummy that tests a warrior's skill. Bob suggests they begin the trial run on its weakest possible setting. He asks if she is ready, and she eagerly begs for the chance. In the training yard, Kiero stands ready, sword in hand, facing the golem. The automaton swings its heavy club in a powerful, downward arc toward her. With incredible speed, she rolls under its legs, dodging the crushing blow. Her face is a mask of intense concentration as she prepares to counter. She leaps into the air, bringing her sword down with all her might. Her attack is a blur of silver and green against the golem's metal form. Kiero's beastkin ear twitches with intense focus during the training simulation. Ataru watches her struggle, sensing that something is wrong with her weapon. The heavy sword is suddenly knocked from her hand, landing far away. Her eyes widen in surprise as she finds herself suddenly disarmed. She nimbly dodges a powerful, crushing blow from the relentless automaton. As the sword clatters to the ground, Ataru calls out her name. He tells her to abandon the sword and try using the knife instead. Surprised but trusting, Kiero agrees to follow his command without hesitation. In a single fluid motion, she lets the unwieldy sword fall away. With the smaller, lighter knife now in her hand, she faces the golem. She uses the automaton's own armored leg as a springboard for her attack. Vaulting onto its back, she drives the knife into a vulnerable neck joint. Ataru watches, impressed by her natural skill and incredible speed with the blade. She strikes a powerful, decisive blow, sparks flying from the critical impact. The automaton collapses in a cloud of dust as Kiero lands gracefully. She looks back over her shoulder, her expression a mix of triumph and relief. She happily tells Ataru she succeeded, playfully testing the knife's balance. Ataru watches her celebration, a small, satisfied smile on his face. She explains that despite it being her first time, the knife felt natural. Bobs praises her excellent gear, while Ataru is impressed by her hidden talent. Kiero beams, overjoyed with her newfound confidence from the successful training. Back in the shop, Bobs lays out their new gear, 3 knives. As Ataru prepares to pay, his attention is suddenly drawn elsewhere. His eyes land on a single, ornate dagger displayed proudly on the wall. The dagger seems to radiate a powerful, almost magical, aura. Ataru's focused gaze reveals his deep interest in the mysterious weapon. He asks Kiero about the blade, and she agrees it has a special aura. He confirms that she is as interested in the unique weapon as he is. The shopkeeper, Bobs, chuckles, impressed by their discerning taste. She praises them for noticing the weapon's superior class among her wares. Ataru questions the meaning of the word class, unfamiliar with the term. Bobs enthusiastically prepares to explain the unique nature of the dagger. She reveals that it is a rare, one-of-a-kind item, a magic weapon. The shopkeeper dramatically reveals the ornate dagger, calling it a legendary magic weapon. Kiero cries out in shock, recognizing the name of the legendary magic weapon. Ataru quietly considers the term, wondering what a magic weapon truly is. Utterly mesmerized, Kiero exclaims that it's amazing and her first time seeing one. Bobs explains it was found in a deadly dungeon by an old adventurer. These miraculous arms are born from magic and grant special abilities to their wielder. Ataru logically deduces that this particular weapon must also possess a special power. The shopkeeper grins, confirming with a pointed finger that he is exactly right. She reveals this dagger enhances its wielder's reaction time and overall movement speed. Kiero sighs in bliss as Bobs adds it is also an artistic masterpiece. Ataru remains stoic, giving only a non-committal hum in response to the sales pitch. Ataru and Kiero both come to the same conclusion: it must be very expensive. Bobs theatrically announces the special price of a staggering 20 gold coins. Kiero is utterly stunned by the astronomical price, stammering the number in disbelief. Bobs insists it's a great deal, while Ataru calculates he can just afford it. His partner, however, is still reeling from the sheer shock of the immense cost. Ataru mulls over his finances, noting his lack of funds as Kiero objects. He turns to Kiero, asking for her perspective on whether the price is high. Bobs interjects with absolute confidence, assuring them the price is a definite bargain. Kiero vehemently disagrees, shouting with all her might that the price is high. Ataru pauses, thoughtfully considering the conflicting opinions on the dagger's immense value. He asks if she wants it, but she panics, insisting she doesn't need it. Ataru tries to negotiate a lower price, causing the flustered shopkeeper to stammer. His expression becomes sharp and serious as he interrupts the haggling attempt. He silences the shopkeeper, stating that he wants to hear Kiero's honest thoughts. Ataru looks to her directly, asking what her true feelings about the weapon are. Kiero lowers her gaze, carefully considering her answer with a serious expression. She honestly admits its performance is great and she would want it if cheaper. A small, knowing smile appears on Ataru's face. He has made his decision. He tells the surprised shopkeeper he will purchase the dagger at her asking price. As Kiero protests, Ataru calmly explains that a good initial investment is important. His expression is firm and confident, his choice now absolute and unchangeable. Kiero can only look on, her face a mask of confusion at his logic. With a clatter, Ataru counts out 20 gold coins to buy the magic weapon. Ataru asks the shopkeeper for a small discount on the knife and armor. The sweating shopkeeper quickly agrees, asking for their continued patronage in the future. They conclude their business at the well-known weapon and armor shop, Bob's. Outside, Ataru presents the sheathed magic weapon to Kiero, telling her it is for her. Kiero holds the dagger in disbelief, whispering that it can't be for her, a slave. He tells her not to worry, calling it a necessary investment to improve her abilities. Kiero realizes that defeating monsters will make her stronger, and good weapons reduce risk. Gripping the dagger, she understands this will also accelerate her own growth as a fighter. Ataru gently pats her head, telling her he is counting on his partner, Kiero. Kiero blushes deeply, her heart fluttering as she repeats the word partner to herself. Ataru teases her, saying she will have to get used to his surprising actions. With a bright smile, Kiero declares that it's okay, as she's starting to understand him. Ataru returns her smile, pleased by her growing confidence and their shared understanding. The newly equipped pair walk through the city streets, ready for their next step. Kiero points to an impressive building, asking if it is the Adventurers Guild. The guild's main hall is a vast, two-story space bustling with numerous adventurers. Many gather around a large, ornate board, studying the various quests posted there. Others congregate at the bar, sharing drinks and stories between their dangerous jobs. Kiero shyly admits this is her first time in a guild. Ataru suggests they register. At a counter, a polite receptionist welcomes them and asks how he can help. He introduces himself as Balara, their guide for the registration process. Balara slides a formal registration document across the counter for them to complete. The form is covered in elegant script, with multiple lines for personal information. Ataru asks if he must fill out every section, and Balara clarifies what is required. Understanding the rules, Ataru takes the offered quill and begins to write. Kiero watches him with a look of quiet curiosity and a hint of nervousness. Ataru hands the completed form back to Balara, stating that it is ready. Balara looks at the form, his eyes widening in surprise at the single entry. Balara asks if just a name is truly acceptable, and Ataru confidently confirms it. The receptionist accepts the form, asking them to wait while he processes it. Kiero quietly asks if that was okay, and Ataru assures her that it is fine. He puts a finger to his lips, explaining their strength is just the two of them. Kiero's eyes widen as she begins to understand his strategic reasoning for secrecy. Her face flushes with a new understanding, realizing the wisdom in his decision. As they wait, Kiero takes in the sights of the guild hall around them. She watches a large, boisterous adventurer slam his tankard down on a table. Her gaze then falls upon a trio of rough-looking men drinking at a table. The three men, a brute, a scarred man, and a pale one, radiate an aura of menace. Balara returns, presenting a glowing crystal orb to create their new guild cards. Ataru places his hand on the orb, which hums with magical energy. The orb glows brightly as Balara tells them to wait for the process to finish. Ataru notes that imprinting the guild card seems to be taking a while. He turns to the receptionist, seeing an opportunity while they wait. He asks Balara a question, his expression focused and inquisitive. Balara is surprised, noting that most adventurers impatiently skip the guild explanation. Pleased by Ataru's rare interest, Balara gladly agrees to explain the system. He details the 7 adventurer ranks, from F for novices to the legendary S rank. Kiero listens intently, nodding as Balara explains how ranks are earned. He elaborates that higher ranks grant access to a wider variety of quests. The ultimate S rank, he explains, is a special title granted by the guild master. Ataru concludes that raising their rank will be useful for their future goals. Balara gestures to the quest board, explaining how to find and accept missions. Ataru asks if they can accept a quest today, having only just registered. Balara confirms they can, instructing them to bring a request form to the counter. He cautions them that as F-rank adventurers, they can only accept quests up to E rank. This rule, he explains with a smile, is to help reduce the rate of failure. Ataru nods, saying he understands the logic behind the guild's ranking system. The crystal orb flashes, signaling that the registration process is finally complete. Balara presents the new guild card, explaining the 1 gold coin replacement fee. Ataru thanks Balara for the helpful explanation, since he's new to the guild. He waves goodbye and leads a happy Kero toward the bustling quest board. Balara watches them go, musing on how rare it is to find such attentive newcomers. He reflects on how long it has been since anyone has properly thanked him. At the quest board, Ataru asks Kero if there is a mission she wants to take. Kero's eyes scan the board, settling on the material gathering requests. She timidly requests a safe mission, admitting she lacks confidence in her fighting. Ataru's eyes, however, are drawn to a different section of the quest board. He spots a particular request and pauses, a thoughtful look on his face. Kero grows worried, asking if he is looking for a dangerous mission. He turns to her with a slightly sheepish smile, neither confirming nor denying. He laughs and pats her head reassuringly, telling her not to worry. With a decisive rip, he pulls a request form from the board for them to accept. Kero reads the Gathering Medicinal Herbs quest, relieved that it seems safe. She then notices a strange detail on the form, a crude drawing of a cat. Ataru leans in, revealing it's actually a wolf subjugation quest for a local village. Kero's ears droop, but Ataru reminds her that combat is an unavoidable part of their job. He places the forms on the counter, promising to support her through the fight. Balara explains the requirements for completing the quest and receiving their reward. He gives them a detailed, illustrated booklet of herbs and other useful materials. Ataru is impressed by the helpful guide and asks if he can keep it. Ataru thanks Balara again, saying he'll return if he has more questions. They leave the guild, ready to set out on their very first official quest. Kero's face is a mask of worry as she admits she feels very anxious. Ataru reassures her it will be fine, as their plan is simple: defeat the wolves. A heavy boot suddenly stomps down, blocking their path as a gruff voice calls out. The three menacing adventurers from the guild stand before them, blocking their way. Ataru's expression hardens into a look of cold annoyance at the confrontation. The brutish leader sneers at them, identifying them as the new rookies. Kero flinches, intimidated by the three thugs who now surround them. The leader offers to look after them as Ataru and Kero try to walk away. Enraged at being ignored, the leader roars at them, demanding they stop. Ataru sighs, asking what they want after he had tried to ignore them. The scarred man says they, as seniors, will look after the new chicks. The pale man adds that in exchange, they will take some money. His predatory gaze lands on Kero, suggesting they borrow her for a while. Kero lets out a silent, horrified scream at the vile, threatening suggestion. Trembling, she clutches Ataru's vest, seeking his protection from the thugs. Ataru's eyes narrow to slits, his voice dropping as he asks if he heard correctly. The leader scoffs at his cheeky attitude, saying they are offering to help. He lunges forward, hand outstretched, roaring for Ataru to obey his elders. A hulking adventurer roars in surprise as he stumbles backward from Ataru. The leader, sweating, angrily curses Ataru for daring to dodge his punch. Ignoring Ataru, he furiously orders his two cronies to capture the beastkin girl. Kero flinches, her hands clasped in terror as the menacing thugs turn towards her. Ataru's hand clenches into a tight fist, his patience finally snapping. His expression turns to ice as he states that the three of them are annoying. The pale, slender thug's face contorts in pure, uncomprehending shock. His entire body begins to dissolve into a cloud of glowing, disintegrating particles. His silhouette vanishes completely, leaving only a dark, starry void behind. The bald, scar-faced thug reacts with a similar expression of abject terror. The cold muzzle of a silenced pistol is suddenly pressed against his temple. The brutish leader watches in horror as his men are instantly neutralized. The guild receptionist, Balara, appears at the top of an alleyway staircase. With cold eyes, Ataru whispers a single word to his opponents: goodbye. He stands calmly, a pistol in each hand, as his attackers are effortlessly dispatched. The leader is sent flying backward, tumbling through a cloud of dust and debris. A brilliant flash of light erupts from the muzzle of Ataru's silenced pistol. The three thugs lie unconscious on the ground, smoke rising from their bodies. Kero calls out Ataru's name, her voice filled with relief and utter amazement. He calmly tells her not to worry, as he was just letting off some steam. The leader groans, completely incapacitated but still alive on the alley floor. The other two thugs are also out cold, their ambush an absolute failure. Ataru mentally notes the usefulness of his stun bullets and plans to make more. He and Kero stand together, the immediate threat having been swiftly dealt with. Unseen, a figure in a high window parts the curtains, having witnessed the event. The mysterious observer, a beautiful elf, watches them with a pensive expression. The tall, dark-skinned elf with long white hair peers down from her hidden vantage point. Kero looks worriedly at Ataru as a caption indicates the story will continue. Ataru's eyes narrow, his expression hardening as he prepares to unleash his true power. the rifle barks, and from an impossible distance, a goblin's head explodes. A second goblin disintegrates into a shower of gore from another precise shot. The leader of the thugs swings a clumsy, powerful punch directly at Ataru's face. A brilliant flash of light signals the thug being instantly knocked unconscious. The three thugs are sent flying in different directions by a single, invisible force. Ballara stands in the alley's entrance, shocked, demanding to know what happened. He quickly realizes that 3 D-rank adventurers have been defeated in an instant. Ballara cautiously asks Ataru what he just did, his voice full of disbelief. Ataru calmly claims it was an internal dispute, dismissing his concern entirely. Kiero stumbles from the shock, and Ataru immediately turns to her with concern. He kindly asks if she can stand, telling her to hold on to him for support. He takes her hand firmly in his own, a steadying and reassuring presence. Kiero looks up at him, her wide eyes filled with awe and gratitude. She tells him he is amazing for defeating such intimidating opponents so quickly. Ataru dismisses the praise, saying they were simply weak and had poor movements. Kiero insists, looking up at him, that he is truly incredible nonetheless. He asks if she is all right, wondering if she was injured during the confrontation. She waves her hands frantically, assuring him she's fine and apologizing for his concern. Ataru asks Ballara to handle the unconscious thugs as they proceed to the village. Lord Grain's mansion wishes them a safe journey as they depart from the city. Ataru and Kiero begin their trek through a vast, untamed landscape. Kiero walks confidently, her new adventurer's gear allowing for easy movement. She reflects on how different Ataru's power is from the training golem she fought. When the adventurers attacked, she recalls, her body froze with overwhelming fear. But Ataru had believed in her, even buying her an expensive and powerful weapon. She worries that if she fails, she will tarnish his reputation. She had sworn to protect him, yet she feels she might have put him in danger. The thought that something could happen to Ataru because of her is terrifying. Lost in her anxious thoughts, she bumps right into Ataru's back. She apologizes profusely while he looks on with a thoughtful expression. He points ahead, asking if she can see what's in the grove up ahead. In a small clearing, a camp of green-skinned goblins is resting. Kiero identifies them as goblins, monsters that attack farms and livestock. She adds that they are also known to attack adventurers on occasion. Ataru asks if she can see what kind of possessions the goblins have. Kiero peers through the bushes, her eyes wide and focused on the camp. She reports that their equipment looks like it was plundered from adventurers. Ataru muses that this is a good opportunity to take a goblin subjugation quest. He turns to Kiero, asking what she would do if she were to attack them. She outlines a careful, stealthy plan to take them down one by one. Ataru praises her excellent plan, but then says he's going to handle it. He tells her that this time, she is to stay back and just watch him. Kiero looks on with a mixture of confusion and surprise at his sudden command. With swift, practiced motions, Ataru assembles his powerful sniper rifle. He shoulders the weapon, his gaze fixed on the distant, unsuspecting targets. The goblins in the camp are completely oblivious to the impending danger. Kiero is shocked, exclaiming that he can't possibly attack from this distance. A single shot rings out, and in the distance, a goblin's head explodes. Ataru explains to her that this is his true, primary method of attack. He clarifies that his other abilities, like the healing bullet, are specialized tools. Kiero can only whisper amazing as she stares at the powerful weapon. She gushes, telling Ataru how incredible he is for wielding such a thing. He tries to deflect, but she insists no one else could use it like him. She marvels at how he took down 3 enemies with one attack, and did it twice. Ataru is surprised by her keen and accurate battlefield analysis. He asks if she could see the attack, and she confirms she also saw it at the guild. Therefore, she concludes with admiration, it is Ataru's skill that is truly amazing. He realizes that the thugs likely didn't even understand what had happened to them. Kiero clenches her fist, her admiration for her partner growing ever stronger. He tells her that her ability is just as he thought, perhaps even greater. He encourages her to have more confidence, saying it's okay to fail sometimes. He promises to support her with all his strength, just as he did before. He asks if his promise helps her feel a little more at ease. He gently pats her head, a warm and reassuring smile on his face. Overwhelmed by his kindness and trust, tears begin to stream down Kiero's face. She throws her arms around him in a tight, grateful, and emotional embrace. Through her sobs, she vows that she will do her very best for him. Ataru suddenly remembers that he should share his quest rewards with her now. He tells her that she is free to use the money however she likes. They arrive at Westamp Village, where the chief, Pablo, warmly greets them. Ataru and Kiero stand together, ready for their next adventure. Kiero observes the weary, worried faces of the villagers gathered behind her. Ataru insists they explain the quest immediately, eager to resolve the problem. The village chief, Pablo, seems taken aback by the young man's directness. Kiero offers a gentle, understanding smile, trying to ease the tension. The chief relents, agreeing to brief the eager adventurers on their plight. He explains their farming village is being terrorized by a pack of wolves. He recalls that in the past, they could fend off smaller monster packs. Ataru correctly deduces that this time, the number of wolves is much larger. The chief confirms this, adding with a worried look that there is more. A massive, shadowy wolf has joined the pack, its form dark against the moon. Ataru realizes they are now facing a far more dangerous boss-class monster. Kiero looks on with concern, a bead of sweat on her cheek. Ataru asks for the location, but the chief is confused about the request. Ataru clarifies that their job is to defeat all the wolves, including the boss. The chief protests, explaining he only requested a normal wolf subjugation. Ataru understands the village couldn't afford a higher-ranked, more expensive quest. He tells the villagers not to worry, he and Kiero will handle it. He instructs them to simply pretend they never knew about the boss monster. With the terms set, Ataru asks for the location on a map. They leave the village, heading toward the distant, monster-infested mountains. Kiero worries if it was wise to take on a quest beyond their rank. Ataru sees it as a convenient chance to truly test his own power. He adds with a smirk that they should have been offered a better reward. Reaching a good vantage point, Ataru prepares for the impending hunt. He readies his sniper rifle, his expression one of calm, lethal focus. He spots the wolves below, confirming their presence for Kiero. He specifies the pack is gathered near a cave entrance in the rocks. He counts 10 wolves, leading Kiero to guess the boss is in the cave. Ataru agrees that the boss is most likely hiding inside the cave. He outlines his strategy, showing Kiero her path of approach on a mental map. He will use a special, fire bullet, to deal with the larger pack. He orders Kiero to engage any monsters that survive his initial barrage. He warns her the boss may emerge from the cave and act unexpectedly. Kiero bravely volunteers to draw the boss's attention if it appears. Ataru cautions her not to push her luck, simply luring it is enough. With wide, determined eyes, Kiero accepts her mission without hesitation. Ataru declares they will finish the job completely before the sun sets. Kiero moves with silent grace through the dense forest undergrowth. She bursts into a sprint, her form a blur of focused energy. Her boots kick up dust as she races towards her designated position. She knows Ataru's plan is to isolate the boss for her to handle. Trusting him completely, she resolves to do everything in her power. She darts silently through the last of the trees, closing the distance. Peeking from behind a bush, she confirms she has a clear view. The unsuspecting wolf pack lounges lazily in the clearing below her. She gives a thumbs up, signaling to Ataru that she is ready. Ataru acknowledges her signal, his eyes narrowed in lethal concentration. With Kiero in place, he and his partner prepare to spring their trap. He takes aim, his finger resting lightly on the trigger of his rifle. A streak of fire, the specialized bullet, screams through the sky. The bullet hits the ground, its immense energy beginning to detonate. The fiery projectile arcs over the treetops towards the oblivious pack. A single wolf senses the danger an instant before the fiery impact. Ataru watches the result, a confident and satisfied smirk on his face. A wolf lets out a final, terrified howl as the explosion hits. A series of massive, fiery explosions erupts among the wolves. The monsters are thrown into the air, their forms consumed by the blast. The shockwave rips through the clearing, decimating the entire pack. The area is engulfed in a cataclysmic inferno of smoke and fire. Kiero recalls Ataru's order, her turn begins if any enemies remain. Her eyes narrow with focus as she prepares to enter the battle. 2 wounded but enraged wolves emerge from the smoke and flames. One of the survivors snarls, stunned by the sudden, devastating attack. Kiero bursts from her cover, charging headlong into the chaotic fray. The 2 remaining wolves turn to face their new, agile opponent. She calls upon the power of her magic weapon, her dagger held ready. She leaps high into the air, twisting to avoid a wolf's snapping jaw. The monster is shocked by her impossible speed and acrobatic grace. Kiero feels the weapon's power, as if she is riding on the wind itself. She weaves between the 2 beasts, a blur of deadly, elegant motion. Filled with new confidence, she cries out that she can win this fight. A memory of fighting a bear man flashes, a benchmark for her growth. She easily dispatches one of the weakened wolves with a clean strike. With a final, powerful slash, she fells the last of the lesser monsters. She lands gracefully, her boots kicking up dust from the scorched earth. She stands victorious, surrounded by the bodies of the slain wolves. With the pack defeated, she knows only the formidable boss remains. A low, ominous rumbling begins to emanate from the nearby cave. The ground trembles as a massive creature stirs within the darkness. Kiero watches as a foul, dark aura pours from the cave mouth. A massive, clawed paw slams down onto the ground at the entrance. A monstrous, furred head emerges from the shadows, its eyes glowing. Kiero wonders if this is the boss, but her instincts scream otherwise. She realizes with dawning horror that this is no ordinary wolf. A death wolf emerges, a C-rank monster of overwhelming power. From afar, Ataru sees the beast, questioning if it's the pack's boss. He recalls seeing a creature just like it in the guild's monster manual. The book described a beast with dark red fur and superior abilities. He confirms its identity, a death wolf, a far deadlier opponent. The death wolf lets out a deafening roar that echoes for miles. Kiero stands frozen for a moment, facing the terrifying creature alone. She cries out to Ataru, warning him of the unexpectedly powerful monster. The death wolf snarls, its maw dripping with a dark, viscous saliva. Kiero stands her ground, daggers at the ready, facing the beast. A single tear of fear traces a path down her determined face. Ataru's presence appears behind her, assuring her that he is ready to fire. She acknowledges his support, her resolve hardening for the fight. The death wolf lunges forward, its massive jaws snapping at her. Ataru fires a supporting shot from his distant sniper's nest. The bullet explodes at the creature's feet, buying Kiero a precious second. Kiero cries out in triumph, believing her partner's attack was a success. Her expression shifts to confusion as she realizes something is terribly wrong. The monstrous death wolf stands wreathed in flames, completely unharmed. Kiero stares in disbelief, realizing the fire magic is having no effect. With a shake of its head, the beast extinguishes the flames completely. From his perch, Ataru grimly observes the monster's incredible resilience. The death wolf lets out a low growl, its eyes narrowing with cunning. It turns its head, ignoring Kiero and locking onto a distant target. Kiero's eyes widen in shock as she understands the monster's new plan. The beast's claws dig into the earth as it prepares to charge. It lunges forward with impossible speed, its target now clear. The death wolf roars, charging directly towards Ataru's hidden position. Kiero realizes the beast is too fast, even with her magic weapon's power. She desperately intercepts its charge, landing a shallow cut on its leg. Ataru understands the beast is using Kiero to block his fire attacks. Kiero moves with blinding speed, dodging around a large rock. She closes the distance again, her twin daggers held ready. Peeking from behind cover, she prepares to re-engage the massive creature. She dodges a swipe and lands a powerful kick to the monster's head. With a cry of effort, she plunges her dagger into its thick hide. The death wolf retaliates viciously, its massive jaws snapping at her. A bullet explodes near the beast's head, forcing it to recoil. Kiero is thrown off balance by the sheer force of the monster's attack. The death wolf is struck again by another of Ataru's ranged shots. Ataru roars in fury, warning the beast not to touch his Kiero. The monster staggers as several non-lethal bullets impact its body. Ataru realizes his normal bullets can only hold the creature back. The beast learns from the attacks, moving to make itself a harder target. Enraged, the death wolf prepares to charge again, ignoring the flames. Ataru knows this foe is too strong for his standard magic bullets. He thinks it was the right call to prepare a second type of ammunition. As the sun sets, Kiero knows their situation is becoming more dire. She fears the death wolf will attack the village if they retreat. Ataru spots a change in Kiero's demeanor as a new resolve hardens her. Kiero's eyes fill with tears, but her expression is firm and determined. She stands her ground, ready to face the monster's final, desperate charge. Ataru accesses his skill interface, preparing a new and powerful strategy. The death wolf roars, surprised that its tiny opponent is not fleeing. Kiero charges forward to meet the beast, her daggers held at the ready. A title page shows Kiero leaping heroically towards the snarling death wolf. Kiero pushes her magic weapon to its limit, begging for more speed. Her dagger flashes through the air, a silver arc of deadly light. She twists her body in midair, bringing her blades down on the monster. She lands a solid blow, driving her dagger deep into the beast's hide. The death wolf roars in pain and fury from the unexpected assault. Her daggers are sent flying from her grasp by a powerful, brutal blow. She prepares to land another strike, her will completely unbroken. She vows to land one more hit on the wounded, enraged monster. As she lands, her ankle twists awkwardly on the uneven, rocky ground. Her face contorts in pain and surprise as she loses her footing. The monster's brutal swipe sends her tumbling helplessly through the air. She cries out as her body is thrown hard to the ground. She lands in a cloud of dust, the monstrous beast looming over her. The death wolf roars in victory, preparing for the final, killing blow. Kiero struggles to push herself up, her body battered and bruised. Facing the monster's gaping maw, she insists that she can still fight. With tears in her eyes, she vows that she will fight on. Ataru has the monster locked perfectly in the crosshairs of his scope. He adjusts his aim, his focus absolute as he prepares the first shot. The rangefinder confirms the target is perfectly sighted for the final attack. From afar, Ataru praises Kiero for buying him the time he needed. He declares that this is the end for the monstrous, powerful beast. He fires the first shot of his gambit, a brilliant flash of light. A blinding light erupts on the battlefield, stunning the creature. The death wolf roars in confusion as the brilliant light envelopes it. Its eyes widen in pain as the paralyzing energy takes hold. The beast staggers, its movements becoming sluggish as it weakens. Ataru holds up a second, more powerful bullet, calling it the main event. Kiero watches, bewildered, as the beast is stunned by Ataru's power. Ataru loads the final, crackling round into his sniper rifle. The death wolf is suddenly enveloped in a cage of raw, crackling lightning. Kiero stares in awe at the impossible and overwhelming display of power. The monster's maw hangs open in a silent, electrified scream of agony. Ataru stands firm, noting that the beast put up a good fight. He snaps his fingers, declaring that the next part is coming. The second bullet, wreathed in lightning, streaks towards its helpless target. The death wolf is consumed by a cataclysmic blast of thunder and light. Kiero shields her eyes from the blinding, overwhelming force of the explosion. The beast is obliterated, its form disintegrating into nothingness. Kiero watches as the last of the smoke and energy finally dissipates. The battlefield is silent, the monster completely gone from existence. Ataru appears beside her, asking if she sustained any injuries. Kiero reassures him that she is fine, having landed on soft ground. They observe the crater, and Ataru notes the beast's incredible durability. Ataru praises Kiero, saying she fought better than he ever imagined. Kiero credits her magic weapon for allowing her to move so freely. Ataru agrees it was a good investment, and Kiero happily concurs. The adrenaline fades, and Kiero's injured leg suddenly gives way. She cries out in pain and surprise as she stumbles and falls. Ataru quickly catches her, holding her steady before she can collapse. He asks if she is alright, seeing that she has injured her leg. Flustered, Kiero apologizes profusely and insists that she is fine. He holds her, saying it's natural since this was her first real battle. He tells her he is counting on her for future battles as well. Her eyes shine as she gives a firm, determined yes, sir. Ataru says they should report to the chief, who will be very pleased. Ataru and Kiero arrive at a peaceful clearing, looking surprised. They have found the patch of medicinal herbs, their original quest objective. Kiero notes the area is secluded, a perfect hidden spot for the herbs. She carefully examines the vibrant green leaves, their mission now complete. In a quiet clearing, a hand carefully plucks the leaves of a medicinal herb. Kiero consults her guidebook, her expression one of intense focus. Ataru decides they will gather 10 bundles of the useful herbs here. He recalls reporting their great victory over the wolves and the death wolf. The village chief had reacted with sheer terror upon hearing the monster's name. The other villagers murmured in shock, unaware of the true danger they faced. Ataru realized then that they were genuinely ignorant of the powerful beast. Overcome with guilt, the chief bowed low, apologizing for endangering their lives. The villagers quickly jumped to his defense, insisting it was their fault. They promised to pay the proper reward, asking only for a little time. Ataru calmly told them not to worry, as unforeseen things can happen. He sternly advised them to be accurate with future quests to ensure safety. Moved to tears, the chief thanked them, promising to heed his words. The villagers gave him the monster's fang as proof of their kill. Eager to help, Kiero volunteered to assist with dismantling the corpse. She told Ataru she wished to learn skills beyond fighting to better support him. It was a surprising request, born from her desire to be truly useful. Ataru was pleased, seeing her grow beyond the role of a protected slave. Kiero proudly showed off the delicious monster meat she helped prepare. Ataru smiled warmly, telling her she had done a wonderful job. He reflected on how monsters were a vital source of food in this new world. As a final show of gratitude, the village had held a feast for them. As they prepared to leave, Kiero worried if they should have stayed longer. Ataru reassured her, noting the herbs were best gathered in the morning. Kiero smiled sweetly, agreeing with his practical reasoning. She was then shocked by the huge pile of herbs he had already gathered. He revealed his ability to guide her to the best gathering spots. Her determined work brought to mind his earlier promise. He reminded her she would get her own share of the reward money. He confirmed his promise was real, looking forward to their earnings. Kiero blushed, offering a shy but heartfelt thank you. He then asked if there was anything special she wanted to do or buy. She hesitated for a moment, her expression thoughtful and a little sad. She shyly asked if it was all right for her to have a few wishes. Her first wish was to continue her journey as an adventurer by his side. Ataru listened intently, his expression soft as she spoke. She explained that she was once saved by an adventurer as a small child. As a slave, she couldn't register, but helping him would be a dream come true. He promised that she would always be with him on his journey. Kiero beamed, her voice ringing with a happy and determined yes. She then began to explain her second, more personal, wish. It was a place she had only ever seen in her dreams. She had heard she was born in the legendary land of the Beastkin. She confessed she had been alone for as long as she could remember. Ataru was visibly moved by her story of profound loneliness. He took a single, purposeful step toward her. He stood before her, his posture radiating a new resolve. Kiero looked up at him, her eyes wide with hopeful anticipation. He took her hand, vowing to take her to the land of the Beastkin. His gaze was firm, filled with the weight of his solemn promise. Overcome with emotion, she thanked him with a tearful, radiant smile. With their quest done, they decided to return to the city for lunch. They soon arrived back at the Grand Adventurers Guild building. Other adventurers stared at them as they approached the entrance. Ataru wondered if the large bundle of herbs he carried looked strange. Kiero confirmed with a blush that it was indeed an unusual sight. She explained that carrying so much was impossible without an expansion bag. It was a type of expensive magic bag that could hold vast quantities. Ataru realized such a useful item would be a wise future investment. For now, he decided they should just report their completed quest. The guild receptionist, Balara, greeted them with surprise and relief. Ataru reported their success and offered the extra herbs for the guild to buy. He also presented the proof of the wolf subjugation from the village chief. Seeing the proof, Balara urgently called for another guild member to help. He pinched the bridge of his nose, clearly overwhelmed by the situation. He explained that processing the report would take some time. He then made a strange request, asking if they would come with him now. Ataru looked at him, confused by the sudden and unusual summons. Balara gestured for them to follow him behind the main counter. He led them up a grand staircase toward the guild's upper floors. They walked down a quiet hallway reserved for high-ranking officials. Balara knocked on a large door, announcing he had brought the two adventurers. He held the door open, inviting them to step inside the private office. The heavy, ornate doors swung open with an imposing creak. The first thing they saw was a cascade of long, white hair. A powerful, dark-skinned figure in revealing attire turned to face them. Her presence was commanding, her form clad in elegant armor. The beautiful woman was revealed to be a formidable elf warrior. She introduced herself as the guild master of Lif, Franfiria. Balara handed her their reward money before being dismissed. Franfiria told Balara he could go, and he bowed respectfully. She then invited Ataru and a nervous Kiero to take a seat. She formally greeted them again, welcoming them to her office. The title card for the chapter appears over the scene. Ataru introduced himself, then gestured to his companion. He introduced Kiero, who sat nervously on the edge of the sofa. Franfiria apologized for the abrupt summons, explaining she had questions. She placed a large, crystalline magic stone on the table before them. Kiero gasped, instantly recognizing the Death Wolf's magic stone. She panicked, realizing this would expose the village chief's false report. Franfiria simply smiled, noting Kiero's clumsy but endearing nature. Her sharp gaze then fixed on Ataru, asking where he obtained the stone. Ataru feigned confusion, suggesting he found the corpse of a slain monster. Franfiria understood he wished to avoid conflict, not hide his power. Her eyes narrowed, as she surmised he possessed a special ability. Kiero watched the tense exchange, her expression filled with worry. Franfiria's analytical gaze missed nothing, her eyes sharp as glass. Ataru realized her eyes were too perceptive, a lie would be seen through. He sensed she had a depth of experience that far surpassed her appearance. He concluded that a clumsy lie would only create unnecessary distrust. Ataru asks Guild Master Franfiria if he should act more formally now. Franfiria knowingly replies that he's realized this is about more than just a death wolf. Ataru and Kiero look on, tense, as she reveals her sharp insight. Ataru considers her words, his expression grim and thoughtful. He sighs, admitting it's pointless to try and hide anything from her. He agrees to tell her everything, but states he has 3 conditions. Franfiria calmly closes her eyes, agreeing to accept his terms. Ataru declares his first condition: the villagers must not be punished. His second condition is that their entire conversation must remain a secret. He places the pulsating magic stone of the Death Wolf on the table. His final condition is that she must purchase the stone from him personally. With a slight smile, Frenferia agrees to all his conditions. Seated, Ataru begins to recount the events of the Westamp village quest. Frenferia listens with rapt attention, her arms crossed as she absorbs the details. Ataru and Kero exchange a glance as he continues his strategic debriefing. He then materializes his massive rifle, much to the guild master's surprise. A close-up of Frenferia's eye reveals her shock at the impossible weapon. He explains it's a magic weapon for long-range attacks, omitting details. Frenferia says she understands, as adventurers rarely reveal their full power. She watches him, while Kero looks on with a hint of worry. Kero looks up, surprised, as Ataru begins to explain her role in the battle. He details how her job was to engage the monsters in close combat. He recounts their perfect teamwork in defeating the powerful Death Wolf. He finishes his story, stating that was the gist of what happened. Kero looks on, a bead of sweat on her cheek, worried about the reaction. Frenferia contemplates his story, her sharp mind analyzing every word. Ataru stands with his rifle, his expression firm and unwavering. Frenferia's face is serious as she processes the true extent of his power. She murmurs to herself that his abilities are truly something to behold. She tells him his report was informative and expects him to continue aiding the guild. She thanks him for his time, telling him he is free to go. She smiles warmly, stating she has now learned everything she needed to. As they leave, she offers to use her authority to let Kero register as an adventurer. Kero gasps in shock, her lifelong dream suddenly within reach. Ataru questions if she can really use her authority so easily. Frenferia dismisses his concern, saying it happens more often than he thinks. Ataru thanks her, and Kero bows deeply, her voice filled with gratitude. He then reminds her of his final condition regarding the magic stone. Frenferia chuckles knowingly, assuring him that she will, of course, buy it. Ataru and Kero depart, Kero giving one last, respectful bow. Frenferia watches from her office as the grand doors close behind them. Her long, white hair flows as she turns away from the door. She muses to herself that the adventurer named Ataru is very interesting indeed. Downstairs, Kero places her hand on the guild's glowing registration orb. Her official Adventurer's Guild card is magically created before her eyes. Overcome with joy, Kero clutches her new card, her face blushing deeply. Ataru congratulates her, noting how quickly her dream has come true. As Kero says it feels like a dream, Balara explains she can now take quests. Balara apologizes for having to trouble the guild master on their account. Ataru reassures him they were lucky, while Kero beams with happiness. Suddenly, a panicked shout for help echoes from the guild's entrance. A wounded adventurer stumbles in, telling his friends he must report to the guild. The injured man and Ataru exchange a tense, concerned glance. The scout gasps that a massive swarm of monsters is approaching the city. He repeats his dire warning to the shocked adventurers gathered in the hall. The title card for Chapter 12 appears over a grand illustration of the guild hall. Amidst the growing chaos, Ataru and Kero stand ready, her holding her new card. Balara pushes through the panicked crowd, asking them to let him pass. He rushes to the collapsed scout, Adams, and asks him what happened. Adams grabs him, desperately warning him of the approaching monster horde. Balara tries to calm the man as he collapses, coughing violently. Catching his breath, Adams explains he was scouting in the northern forest. The other adventurers listen intently, their expressions grim and serious. Some are skeptical, saying that monster swarms aren't that uncommon. Adams leaps up, insisting this is no small swarm, but hundreds of monsters. Balara's eye widens in horror as he realizes the scale of the threat. He asks Adams how he can be so certain of the numbers. Adams explains his presence detection skill allowed him to sense the massive horde. He clutches his injured shoulder, exhausted from his desperate ride back to the city. Kero kindly approaches the injured scout, offering him a cup of water. Ataru steps up behind Balara, his voice low, and asks if this is bad. Balara, his face pale with worry, confirms that it is a very dire situation. He explains this phenomenon is known as a monster stampede. Ataru understands that if Balara is this tense, they must act immediately. Balara decides to check the records of the previous stampede for a strategy. Suddenly, he stops, stating that someone else will now take command. The magnificent guild master, Frenferia, descends the grand staircase. The entire guild hall falls silent, shocked by her sudden, commanding appearance. The adventurers murmur in awe, many of them seeing her for the very first time. She declares that the monster horde is almost certainly targeting their city, Lif. She calls upon all adventurers to join a massive subjugation mission. The adventurers listen, their faces a mixture of fear and determination. She names the quest the Monster Annihilation Battle and suspends all other jobs. One adventurer eagerly accepts for the pay, while another looks worried. A cloaked woman declines, saying she lacks the confidence to survive a chaotic battle. Kiero turns to Ataru, her expression anxious, and asks what they should do. Ataru realizes that Frenferia's announcement is, in part, directed at them. He looks up at the guild master, who stands impassively on the stairs. Frenferia meets his gaze and offers a subtle, knowing smile. Ataru smirks back, understanding that he has no choice but to accept the challenge. Kiero watches him, her face filled with worry and uncertainty. Ataru asks Balara how they will track kills in such a massive battle. Balara explains their guild cards will be enchanted to automatically record their kills. He tells them to simply proceed with the normal quest acceptance procedure. Ataru realizes this system will allow him to fight without revealing his true power. He wonders if Lord Grain and Arshuna have been informed of the impending danger. He turns to his partner, his voice firm, and declares they will accept the quest. Kiero's face lights up with a brilliant, determined smile as she agrees. Balara, seeing their resolve, directs them toward the reception desk. As they turn to go, a voice from the side barks at them to wait. 3 menacing D-rank adventurers, Rosric's party, stand together with arrogant expressions. Rosric's eyes narrow with contempt as he tells the F-rank newbies to leave. Ataru lets out a weary sigh, while Kiero shrinks back from the confrontation. Ataru calmly states the guild master said rank doesn't matter for this quest. Rosric's companions explode in anger, shouting that it is not about the rules. Rosric gets in Ataru's face, snarling that they won't allow such a sweet deal. A powerful, feminine voice commands them all to be silent, cutting the tension. Frenferia, the guild master, stands on the stairs, silencing the heated argument. The entire guild hall looks up as she commands silence from the grand staircase. Frenferia declares that due to the emergency, infighting among adventurers is forbidden. Rosric clicks his tongue in annoyance, forced to back down by her absolute authority. Frenferia explains they need all the fighting power they can get for the stampede. Rosric argues that the newbies will just take the reward and run away. His party yells that they are D-rankers and won't be disrespected by a rookie. Frenferia proposes a contest, the loser gives their entire reward to the winner. Rosric is flustered, not expecting them to accept such a harsh condition. Frenferia raises the stakes, offering 20 gold coins from her own pocket. She turns her sharp gaze to Ataru, asking what he will do now. Ataru agrees, confident the guild cards will accurately track all of their kills. Rosric sweats nervously as his companion warns him not to get scared now. Other adventurers start taking sides, offering to fight in the D-ranker's place. Rosric, panicked, shouts that his party never said they wouldn't accept the challenge. He rallies his men, declaring there is no way they'll lose to an F rank. The other adventurers in the hall begin placing their bets on the D-rank party. A group of onlookers gossip about Ataru, who apparently defeated a death wolf. Ataru and Kiero stand calmly amidst the chaotic crowd, observed by the guild master. Frenferia slyly notes that this wager is a cheap price to boost morale. Kiero looks on with a wide-eyed, bewildered expression at the turn of events. Ataru lets out a small puff of air, accepting the ridiculous situation he's in. Frenferia calmly summons her assistant, Balara, to bring the contract documents. Balara presents the formal contract to the guild master for the official signing. Ataru's signature is scrawled decisively across the magical parchment. Rosric's signature appears in a flash of light, sealing his side of the bet. Frenferia holds the contract aloft, declaring the pact is sealed before all witnesses. Rosric listens as the initial battle plan is laid out for the adventurers. Ataru and Kiero listen as the basic formation for the battle is explained. Frenferia rallies the guild, urging them to meet the stampede with full force. Ataru, Kiero, and Frenferia stand atop a secluded section of the city wall. The vast, quiet forest stretches out before them, the calm before the storm. Frenferia stands beside Ataru, her expression calm and analytical before the battle. The trio looks out over the landscape, waiting for the monster horde to appear. Ataru and Kiero stand ready, their faces set with grim determination. Ataru watches as the other adventurers move to their designated positions below. Heavily armored knights and warriors rush towards the edge of the forest. A party of mages and support casters takes up their positions for the battle. Frenferia asks Ataru if he is comfortable being so far from the others. Ataru confirms this high vantage point is the ideal position for his weapon. Ataru tells Frenferia he needs a moment alone to prepare with his partner. Frenferia agrees to leave, telling him to call her if he needs anything. Ataru and Kiero stand alone on the wall, preparing for their coordinated attack. Ataru begins to lay out the battle plan for Kiero, his trusted partner. Kiero determines her role will be to use her speed on the front lines. Ataru gives her the new throwing knives, telling her to fight her own way. He presents the knives, but says he has one important warning for her. Ataru warns her not to expect the healing bullet, as he cannot use it again. He tells her that her own safety must be her absolute top priority. He gently holds her face, reassuring her that he will always be watching. He promises that he will not let a single monster lay a finger on her. Kiero presses his hand to her cheek, promising to remember his words. The calm is broken as bat-like monsters erupt from the forest canopy. Skeletal warriors in rusted armor emerge from the shadows of the woods. Hulking stone golems lumber into view, their forms towering over the trees. Kiero calls out to Ataru, her body tense and ready for action. Ataru tells Kiero he's ready, and that it's time to begin their attack. Kiero leaps from the wall as Ataru takes aim with his sniper rifle. Frenfiria, standing on the wall, watches the battle begin with a focused gaze. She murmurs that the battle has now begun, her long hair blowing in the wind. The monster annihilation battle begins as a swarm of creatures emerges. The stampede crashes against the adventurers' front line with brutal force. Savage-looking bear men, armed with crude axes, lead the monstrous charge. Hordes of vicious goblins scramble across the ground, overwhelming the defenders. The massive stone golems advance relentlessly towards the distant city walls. The adventurers' armored legs pound the ground as they rush to meet the horde. The warriors let out a thunderous battle cry as they charge into the fray. A knight desperately blocks a goblin's axe while another fights a bear man. A golem's fist smashes the ground, sending adventurers flying from the impact. The adventurers cry out in frustration at the seemingly endless number of monsters. Two monsters snarl, preparing to attack a lone figure in their midst. Kiero becomes a whirlwind of motion, cutting down multiple monsters in an instant. The other adventurers stare in shock, wondering at her incredible speed. One recognizes her as the Beastkin girl who partners with the rookie adventurer. Kiero parries a blow, her eyes focused and determined in the heat of battle. She gracefully dodges a clawed swipe, her movements fluid and precise. Goblins leap towards her from above, but she is already anticipating their attack. She leaps away, leaving two felled monsters in her wake as she moves on. High above, Ataru calmly provides sniper support, his expression focused. His eye, magnified by the scope, is a picture of cold, deadly precision. He fires, a silent flash of death from his hidden position on the wall. A monster's head explodes in a shower of gore, taken down from afar. Kiero lands gracefully amidst the dissipating forms of the monsters Ataru eliminated. She looks up towards the wall, a smile of absolute trust on her face. Ataru returns her look with a confident smirk, their teamwork perfectly synchronized. Rosric's party struggles, having only managed to kill 14 or 15 monsters. Rosric watches in disbelief as Kiero effortlessly cuts down monster after monster. His companion panics, realizing they will lose the bet and their reward. Rosric's face contorts with rage, deciding to interfere with the brat. A massive, horned ogre, crackling with magic, emerges from the forest. Ataru immediately spots the high-value target, his aim fixed on one point. His eye narrows with deadly intent as he gives the mental command to fire. Ataru fires a single, powerful shot, aiming to end the new threat instantly. A blinding flash of light erupts across the battlefield, signaling the end. The gigant demon is consumed by the cataclysmic blast of pure energy. The final, powerful bullet finds its mark with absolute, devastating precision. Basta's legendary sword strikes the demon's core with a flash of holy light. The magic stone at the heart of the beast begins to crack under the strain. The demon's power is too great, the legendary blade shatters upon impact. Ataru's bullet, however, pierces through the shattered defenses without resistance. The demon's magic stone, its source of life, is utterly obliterated. An explosion of light erupts from within the creature's chest. The demon's massive, clawed hand falls limp as its life fades away. Its monstrous form dissolves into smoke and dissipating magical energy. The tyrant of the demon world vanishes from existence in a final roar. Its final, silent scream echoes as the blinding light consumes it completely. The intense light of the final attack slowly begins to fade away. A quiet dawn breaks over the now peaceful valley and the distant city. Ataru stands alone on the battlefield, his back to the rising sun. A wisp of smoke curls from the barrel of his still-hot rifle. Ataru declares with grim satisfaction that this time, it is finally over. Frenfiria, the guild master, looks on, her energy spent but relieved. The A-rank knight, Basta, stares in utter disbelief at what he witnessed. His companions, Y and Marrow, are so exhausted their spirits are leaving them. Ataru asks Frenfiria if the demon's corrupting magic has dissipated. She confirms it has. He takes her hand, explaining the malevolent energy will now fade naturally. He tells her she can rest easy now, and she looks at him gratefully. A squad of city guards arrives, asking anxiously if the guild master is safe. She says she is fine and asks about the city. The guards report minimal damage. She praises them for their hard work and tells them to rest at the guild. Ataru helps the wounded Basta to his feet, who apologizes for his weakness. Ataru apologizes for the destruction of Basta's legendary sword during the fight. Basta tells him not to worry, as the sword wished to defeat a great beast. Basta asks if his companions are hurt. Mero is hungry, why wants a bath. A gentle breeze blows through the long, silver hair of his waiting partner. Basta invites him back to the city, but Ataru says he is waiting for someone. He turns, saying that he is going to go and get his partner now. He walks across the quiet, leaf-strewn battlefield to find her waiting for him. Kiero stands alone, her arms wrapped around herself, her face etched with worry. He gently calls out her name, his voice cutting through the silence. He tells her to wait, reminding her that she shouldn't be moving yet. Overcome with emotion, she can only whisper his name, her breath catching. Forgetting his warning, she runs towards him, crying out his name in relief. Tears of joy and relief stream down her face as she rushes to him. She crashes into him, burying her face in the safety of his chest. He catches her, holding her securely as she clings to him, sobbing. The two partners are reunited in a heartfelt, tearful embrace on the battlefield. She cries that she is so glad that he has returned to her safely. He reassures her that he is fine, apologizing for making her worry. He lifts her into his arms, holding her close as she continues to cry. From a distance, Y and Mero watch the touching reunion with warm smiles. The guild master, Frenferia, also observes them, her expression thoughtful and unreadable. A nearby knight asks the guild master who Ataru is, noting his abnormal power. Frenferia looks down, considering her words carefully before she gives her answer. She looks up with a knowing smile, stating simply that he is an adventurer. The city of Lif stands safe, marking the end of the monster annihilation battle. Rosric seethes, demanding to know how that beastkin brat dared to interfere. His men fret about losing, but Rosric reminds them he signed a contract. He rants that losing means their D-rank skills are worse than a rookie's. He realizes with dawning horror they won't be able to work here again. His companion asks what to do, and Rosric chuckles, saying it's simple. He holds a rope, planning to rough up the rookie and hang him somewhere. He explains they will wait until the battle ends to catch the kid alone. His two companions can only stare, stunned by the cruelty of his plan. Meanwhile, Kiero fights fiercely, completely unaware of the plot against her partner. Rosric smirks, noting that the brat is completely absorbed in fighting monsters. High above, Ataru has the three schemers perfectly centered in his scope. He murmurs that he will teach them about the world of adventurers. With a sigh of annoyance, he adjusts his scope, preparing to intervene. Suddenly, the ground around the three thugs erupts as rocks crash down. They are thrown into a panic, completely surprised by the unseen assault. Rosric demands to know what's happening and where the attacks are coming from. He dismisses it as a coincidence and orders his men to keep moving. But then, a throwing knife slices through the air with a sharp sound. It deflects another blade, a clear sign of a deliberate, precise attack. A hail of knives rains down, pinning the terrified thugs in place. They realize with horror that the rookie is the one attacking them. Enraged, Rosric orders his men to ignore the attacks and grab the girl. But just then, a new wave of snarling lizard-men monsters appears. The three cowardly adventurers can only scream in terror as they are swarmed. The monsters are cut down, but not before the thugs' plan is ruined. Kiero pauses, thinking she heard something, but sees nothing out of place. She reflects that she has grown stronger since fighting the Death Wolf. She vows to fight carefully, never again risking the body Ataru healed. Knowing he is watching gives her strength, and she resolves to fight harder. Her borrowed throwing knives are ruined, but her magic weapon is pristine. She declares that she can still fight and be of use to Ataru-sama. From the city wall, the barrel of Ataru's rifle remains steady. He tells Frenferia that now he can finally focus on the real battle. Frenferia looks on, her curiosity piqued by his strange and powerful weapon. She admits she has never seen a weapon or an ability like his. The guild master takes a single, graceful step closer to him. He asks if she could see the distant battle, and she confirms she could. She reveals that his current kill count surpasses even A-rank adventurers. Ataru is surprised to hear this, a flicker of concern on his face. He asks if his kills are being counted, and she assures him they are. She explains the guild cards are magically precise and have been perfected over centuries. He is relieved to hear it, and she is satisfied with his understanding. Suddenly, Frenferia's expression shifts as she senses a change in the air. Ataru also feels it, a strange, unsettling energy washing over the battlefield. They both look out from the wall towards the dark, ominous forest. Deep within the forest, the ground begins to tremble and crack. Ataru narrows his eyes, murmuring that it feels as if the forest is crying. Ataru tells Franferia they must get back to work and increase their pace. A close-up reveals his focused eyes, as he admits to having a bad feeling. Franferia leans in, confirming she also senses an unsettling presence growing stronger. Her eyes widen in alarm as she realizes the monsters are increasing, not decreasing. A horde of savage, wolf-like monsters surges forward in a relentless tide. Ataru resolves to support the other adventurers to maintain the defensive line. Franferia confidently agrees, stating she will also move to assist the others. She gracefully runs along the wall, as Ataru kneels and takes aim. With his eye to the scope, he focuses, wondering what is about to happen. He fires his rifle, a brilliant flash of light erupting from the muzzle. In the distance, a monster's head explodes from the devastatingly accurate shot. An entire rank of monsters is annihilated by the powerful, unseen attack. On the ground, a young mage unleashes a fiery spell upon a hulking beast. A knight in heavy armor roars a challenge as he charges into the fray. A young spearman cries out as blood splatters across his armor. His party is overwhelmed. The mage fears her magic is running out. Their leader knows that if they fall back, the entire defensive line will collapse. He realizes with dread that their numbers never diminish, sensing something is wrong. Deep in the forest, the trees rustle with a dark, unnatural energy. A gnarled, clawed hand, wreathed in shadow, reaches out from the darkness. A monstrous necromancer emerges, the true source of the endless monster horde. Elsewhere, high-ranking adventurers begin to notice the anomaly in the forest. A powerful swordswoman and a studious mage sense the battle has changed. They feel an unidentifiable, sinister threat pressing in on them all. Another party leader shouts a desperate warning for his comrades to fall back. The adventurers are thrown into disarray by a massive, powerful explosion. A warrior cradles his wounded friend, screaming for a healer to come quickly. The knight's party is surrounded, knowing they will soon be completely overrun. The leader agonizes over retreating, fearing he will doom the city. His hand tightens on his weapon, his knuckles white with tension and fear. Suddenly, a wave of intense cold sweeps over the charging monsters. The knight leader stares in stunned disbelief at the impossible turn of events. The monsters are frozen solid, their snarling faces trapped in crystalline ice. The momentum of their charge causes the frozen creatures to shatter into pieces. The beleaguered adventurers look up in awe at the source of this incredible power. Franferia lands, declaring she will join the front lines and show them the guild's true strength. The adventurers are thunderstruck, recognizing her as the legendary guild master. The S-rank adventurer stands ready, her presence a beacon of hope. One man cheers they are saved, but his leader notes she has been retired. The leader worries that she may no longer possess her full strength. Franferia raises her bow, asking the assembled warriors if they know her other name. She unleashes her power, a vortex of frigid energy erupting from her bow. The icy magic swirls and gathers, preparing to strike the battlefield. A storm of ice lances streaks across the field, wiping out everything in its path. A goblin is struck by the blast and is instantly encased in solid ice. A massive stone golem crumbles to dust under the intense magical frost. The entire vanguard of the monster army is frozen solid in an instant. The ice-encased monsters begin to crack and disintegrate under the spell's power. The head of a giant stone golem shatters into 1,000 pieces. The adventurers are speechless, witnessing the overwhelming power of the guild master. Franferia stands serene amidst the cold, her power radiating from her. Her legendary title is revealed, the Ice Witch, Franferia. She stands alone before the horde, a solitary figure holding back the darkness. A young adventurer is overcome with awe, realizing the immense gap in their power. Franferia warns everyone to stand back, as she is not yet finished. She closes her eyes, beginning a long and complex magical incantation. She brings her hands together, gathering immense energy for a wide-area spell. The air crackles with power as her spell begins to manifest. Her elegant hands complete the final, intricate gesture of the incantation. The spell erupts, massive spires of ice shooting up from the ground. Her glacial hell creates a colossal ice wall, blocking the monster's path. The massive, frozen barrier towers over the entire battlefield. The monster horde is completely halted, unable to breach the new defense. The adventurers erupt in a massive cheer, celebrating their miraculous salvation. Franferia stands, her spell complete, as magical snowflakes drift around her. She admits to herself that using such power after so long is taxing. She believes her spell has, at the very least, bought them some precious time. The chapter ends with a title card showing the powerful guild master. The adventurers rally, their morale restored by Frenferia's incredible display. High on the city wall, Ataru continues his silent, deadly overwatch. He acknowledges that Frenferia's magic has halted the horde, marveling at its power. However, the unsettling feeling remains, and he knows the danger has not passed. He resolves to thin the monster's numbers before something else can happen. Suddenly, the massive ice wall begins to crack and explode from within. The colossal barrier shatters under a powerful, unseen force. On the ground, Kiero hears the earth begin to rumble ominously. She notes the increased pace of Ataru's attacks, knowing she cannot relax. She is thrown from her feet as a powerful tremor shakes the ground. Landing hard, she braces herself, dagger in hand, for a new threat. Through his scope, Ataru sees the new danger and calls out her name in alarm. He warns her of a threat emerging from a blind spot in his line of sight. Kiero's sensitive beastkin ears twitch, picking up the sound of the approaching foe. Her eyes widen in shock and terror as she turns to face it. A massive, ape-like monster bursts from the trees, roaring as it charges her. Back on the front line, dark, viscous blood suddenly splashes onto Frenferia's hand. She stares at the foreign blood, shocked by its sudden, impossible appearance. A dark, corrupting energy begins to spread across her hand. She realizes a powerful demonic element is breaking through her ice barrier. The last of her magnificent ice wall crumbles into dust and ruin. The adventurers on the front line stare in horror at the new nightmare. A woman collapses, screaming in agony, as others cry out in terror. Frenferia holds up a hand, understanding that something terrible has arrived. A towering gigant demon stands before them, a tyrant from the demon world. The adventurers panic, warning each other to stay back from the monster. Frenferia realizes the demon's powerful aura is what drew the endless horde. Elsewhere, Kiero pants with exhaustion, pushed to her absolute limit. She fights bravely, her movements a blur of desperate energy against the ape beast. Gritting her teeth, she pushes through the pain, refusing to give up. A powerful blow sends her flying backward through the air. The monstrous ape looms over her, its jaws open for the killing blow. Kiero's hand tightens on her dagger, a pained grunt escaping her lips. A massive explosion erupts, throwing her backward in a brilliant flash of light. Ataru leaps down from the wall, urgently calling Kiero's name and asking if she's all right. Dazed and on the ground, Kiero weakly looks up and calls out to him. The camera pans across the vast, forested landscape where the desperate battle rages on. Ataru internally notes that Kiero has no major injuries, but has pushed past her physical limits. He thinks to himself that this is the dangerous price of wielding such a powerful weapon. He laments his carelessness, realizing he should have paid more attention to the weapon's backlash. He tells Kiero that he was watching her fight, that she did great, but now must rest. He explains that he knows her body is already at its absolute limit from exhaustion. Kiero tries to protest, insisting that she is still capable of fighting. Ataru's gaze hardens as he gives her a direct order to rest, stating he cannot let her continue. Kiero looks down, her eyes welling with tears as she finally accepts his command. Ataru gently cups Kiero's cheek, his touch a comforting gesture. He praises her efforts, saying their team's success is all thanks to her. He tells her to leave the rest of the fighting to him. He gently takes her chin, asking if she understands his order. With tears in her eyes, Kiero whispers that she understands. The chapter ends with her tearful, heartfelt agreement. Ataru promises not to worry, saying he'll be back to celebrate with a good meal. Kiero smiles through her tears, saying she will be looking forward to it. He gives a final wave, telling her he's heading out now. Kiero sits against the tree, her gaze following him as he leaves. She whispers a prayer for his safe return as he walks away into the chaos. Ataru races towards the sounds of battle, dust kicking up around him. He feels a growing, unsettling premonition as he heads toward the front line. He recognizes this ominous feeling is far more powerful than the Death Wolf. He accesses his bullet control system, knowing he'll need a different kind of ammunition. He realizes he'll have to use a much more powerful magic bullet for this foe. On the front lines, the adventurers are in full retreat, their leader shouting orders to fall back. Frenferia grits her teeth, her magic wavering under the immense pressure of the assault. The massive gigant demon smashes through her ice wall with a terrifying roar. She realizes with grim certainty that her ice magic has its limits against such a powerful demon. The knight rushes forward, declaring that he and his men will join her in the fight. Frenferia orders them to retreat to the outer wall with the other adventurers. She warns that if the line is breached, they will be needed to evacuate the city's residents. The knight hesitates, his face a mask of conflict and worry for his leader. His companion urges him to wait, telling him to trust in the guild master's power. The other adventurers express their reluctance to leave Frenferia behind to fight alone. The knight realizes he must regroup his forces before the city is completely overrun. Franferia gives a small, approving nod, her decision made. The knight entrusts the battle to her and orders his men to retreat with haste. The gigant demon looms over the battlefield, a terrifying silhouette against the trees. Franferia knows it's only a matter of time before her ice wall is completely destroyed. She grips her bow, determined not to let the monstrous beast pass so easily. She declares that she will not fail, staking the honor of her title on this final stand. She unleashes her ultimate spell, the powerful, glacial sarcophagus. A wave of immense freezing energy washes over the entire battlefield. The gigant demon braces itself against the overwhelming magical onslaught. Spikes of sharp, crystalline ice erupt from the ground, encasing the demon. The demon roars in fury as it is momentarily trapped in the tomb of ice. Franferia knows this has only bought them a little more time. She prepares for a last stand, entrusting the city's fate to the other adventurers. Ataru appears suddenly, catching her just as she begins to collapse from exhaustion. Franferia looks up in shock, asking why he has come to the front line. He explains he had a bad feeling and that his premonition of danger was correct. He suggests they go and deal with the source of the monster stampede together. He identifies the demon as the source, noting it looks as dangerous as it seems. He asks Franferia if she's alright after using such a powerful and draining technique. She admits she's used up most of her power and tells him to retreat with the others. Ataru considers falling back to the wall, acknowledging it would be advantageous. But he knows their forces are too few, and if the wall is breached, they're finished. He concludes they must defeat the demon here and now to change the situation. Franferia looks at him, sensing his unwavering resolve. He reveals he has a technique to restore people and asks if she can still fight. Franferia, her hope renewed, confirms that she can indeed still fight on. Ataru simply says, "I understand." He raises his rifle, telling her to trust him. He aims his rifle at her chest, and she accepts, asking him to proceed. A brilliant flash of light erupts from her as the healing bullet hits. Her glasses fog up from the sudden warmth and surge of energy. She gasps, wondering what this incredible sensation is. She feels her power returning, stronger than it was before. She exclaims that her condition has been completely restored. She looks at Ataru in awe, asking what in the world he is. She feels even better than she did before the battle began, her stamina and magic overflowing. She realizes with a jolt that this is Ataru's true, impossible power. Ataru confirms that she seems to be okay now. He plants his foot firmly, ready for battle. He turns his attention back to the demon. He declares it's time to begin the extermination of the Big Oaf. He asks Franferia if she has a way to defeat it, and she confirms she does. She explains the gigant demon has a demon core, different from a normal magic stone. Ataru questions if its location is unknown or simply hard to reach. Franferia confirms it's a matter of location, as the core is deep within its body. She specifies it's in its left chest, protected by incredibly hard skin. Ataru recognizes her words from a previous conversation, realizing she's fought one before. She recalls that at the time, her companions were wielding legendary weapons. They were able to reach the core with a powerful ultimate technique. Ataru muses that against such a thing, they can only rely on overwhelming numbers. He notes that with the other adventurers retreated, they are now alone. He doubts even his weapon can destroy the core in a single shot. Franferia looks on, her expression grim as she considers their chances. The knight and his companions return, declaring they will offer their help. Franferia asks why they've returned instead of retreating to the outer wall. They explain they couldn't bear to leave her behind to fight alone. The knight insists they still have strength left to fight and asks to help. Franferia gratefully accepts their offer but warns their exhausted state is a danger. The adventurers declare they will act as shields to protect the city. Ataru and Franferia share a look, a new, audacious plan forming between them. Franferia explains that their only hope is to somehow fully restore the other adventurers. The adventurers are shocked, pleading with Ataru to use this rumored trump card. Franferia sweetly asks Ataru if he would be so kind as to heal everyone. Ataru sighs, reluctantly agreeing but warning them to never speak of this to anyone. Basta, the A-rank knight, places a hand on his chest and swears his secrecy. Mero, the B-rank scout, gives a cheerful thumbs up, promising to keep the secret. Why, the B-rank mage, shyly agrees, noting she has no companions to tell anyway. Ataru selects his healing bullet and instructs the three adventurers to turn their backs. He fires 3 successive shots, striking them with brilliant flashes of light. In a surreal vision, their bodies are renewed, fatigue and wounds vanishing instantly. They are overcome with awe, feeling their strength return as if by impossible magic. The gigant demon remains momentarily trapped within its crumbling prison of ice. With a deep groan, the magical ice begins to crack and shatter under its power. The demon roars, breaking free and preparing to unleash its fury once more. The 5 heroes stand united, a small but determined force against the Titan. Ataru confirms their target, asking if they can wound the demon's left chest. Basta proudly declares that his fine sword is more than up to the task. Mero chimes in, confidently stating that he has faith in his own skills. Wai meekly adds that she too believes she can be of some assistance. Ataru turns his attention to Frenferia, needing her to coordinate the final blow. Understanding his intent, she agrees to time her attack for the perfect moment. Ataru gives the final order. He and Frenferia will attack first to create an opening. The 3 other adventurers give a unified shout, ready to follow his command. The ground trembles as the final, desperate battle for the city of Lif begins. The demon looms behind Frenferia as she prepares to unleash her power. A volley of crystalline ice arrows materializes on her bowstring. She fires, sending the deadly ice projectiles streaking toward the beast. The arrows find their mark, slamming into the gigant demon's face. The creature's head snaps back, roaring in pain from the sudden assault. The ice arrows explode on impact, momentarily stunning the hulking monster. Mero shouts in amazement, impressed by the guild master's incredible power. Through his scope, Ataru notes that Frenferia is aiming for a perfect spot. He steadies his rifle, preparing to add his own impossible power to the attack. Wai is stunned that he can attack from a range far beyond that of normal magic. Ataru's gloved finger squeezes the trigger, ready to unleash devastating force. With a brilliant flash, the high-caliber sniper rifle fires its shot. His interface confirms he's using a +P overpressure round for maximum impact. The bullet slams into the demon's horn with the force of a cannonball. A powerful shockwave ripples through the air from the point of impact. The demon is thrown off balance, stumbling backward from the incredible force. Mero and Wai shout in disbelief, amazed that he made the demon flinch. Basta cannot comprehend that this is the power of a mere F-rank rookie. Dark, malevolent energy begins to swirl around the demon's shattered horn. Before their eyes, the horn completely regenerates, good as new. Frenferia watches the display of power with a calm, calculating expression. The other wounds on the demon's body also begin to knit themselves shut. The adventurers are horrified by the creature's seemingly endless regeneration. Basta worries that their own turn to attack may never come. Wai looks on, her face a mask of growing dread and helplessness. She explains that an immense amount of magic is repairing the damage instantly. Ataru realizes the demon's magic stone is the source of its regeneration. A vision shows the glowing core within its chest, the key to its defeat. Ataru gives new orders, telling the others to prepare as he draws its fire. He warns them to move from their current position before it's too late. The 3 adventurers scramble away, seeking a safer vantage point. Ataru observes the demon, steam rising from its fully healed body. He notes that despite their attacks, the beast is almost completely recovered. He changes tactics, his interface glowing with the selection of a fire bullet. In that case, he thinks, preparing to unleash a new elemental assault. He takes aim and fires the specialized round with pinpoint accuracy. The fiery projectile streaks across the battlefield toward the demon's leg. The bullet strikes true, and the demon's leg erupts in a ball of fire. A massive explosion of flame engulfs the lower half of the creature's body. Thick, acrid smoke billows from the wound, obscuring the monster's form. The demon throws its head back and lets out a roar of pure, unadulterated agony. It stumbles forward, its leg now a charred and smoldering ruin. In a fit of pure rage, the demon smashes its massive fist into the ground. The earth cracks and shatters from the sheer force of the desperate blow. Ataru notes that the special fire ammunition is effective at slowing regeneration. It's not over yet, he thinks, selecting a thunder bullet for his next shot. He raises his rifle once more, preparing to add insult to injury. The electrical round strikes the demon's torso with a blinding flash. A massive discharge of lightning erupts from the point of impact. The demon's massive body is racked with convulsions as electricity surges through it. Its face is a mask of pure agony as it is simultaneously burned and shocked. Ataru's eyes narrow, the perfect opening has finally been created. Wai, too, sees the opportunity, her eyes wide with hope and fear. Mero turns to Basta, shouting for him to hurry to his attack position. Frenferia's long white hair flows as she prepares to make her move. She glides into position, her focus absolute, the demon in her sights. She marvels at the incredible damage Ataru has inflicted on the beast. Her determined figure stands as a beacon of hope against the darkness. She unleashes her own power, joining the relentless, two-pronged assault. She thinks how fighting with Ataru reminds her of her adventurous youth. She declares to herself that she cannot allow the rookie to outshine her. The gigant demon, caught in the crossfire, roars in defiance and fury. Another powerful blow strikes the demon, sending it reeling backward. Overwhelmed by the combined assault, the massive creature falls to its knees. It gathers its remaining strength, preparing for a desperate counterattack. A storm of ice shards slams into the demon, freezing it in place. The creature is once again encased in a tomb of magical ice. Franfiria stands victorious, her magic having created the final opening. She stands before the frozen behemoth, her power absolute and undeniable. The demon's face is frozen solid in a silent, agonizing roar. Franfiria's eyes are as cold and sharp as the ice she commands. Ataru takes his final aim, his rifle pointed directly at the demon's core. The two titans, one of ice and one of flesh, are locked in a final standoff. Franfiria's eyes glow with the immense magical power she has just unleashed. The other three adventurers can only watch in stunned, silent awe. Through the sniper scope, a single, sharp crack announces the beginning of the end. Ataru unleashes a hail of fire, a storm of energy erupting from his rifle. The specialized rounds explode against the gigant demon's massive legs with incredible force. The behemoth roars in a mixture of pain and confusion from the unexpected assault. Ataru knows this special bullet is too powerful for the beast's legs to withstand. A series of powerful explosions rocks the ground, shattering the earth at its feet. The demon's massive foot is thrown off balance as the ground gives way beneath it. With a final, agonizing bellow, the titan begins to topple, its balance lost. It crashes to the ground, and Mero shouts in amazement that the demon has fallen. He eagerly tells Basta that the beast is in range, now is their chance to strike. Basta, however, holds back, sensing that the moment is not yet right for their attack. The demon's massive hand slams into the earth as it begins to push itself upward. Steam rises from its hide as the gigant demon stands, its wounds already healing. It lets out a furious roar, its immense power seemingly undiminished by the fall. Mero is horrified, shouting that the demon is already recovering from its injuries. With a defiant bellow, the beast shows its wounds closing at an impossible rate. A massive, glowing magic circle erupts on the ground, ensnaring the charging demon. Franfiria, her white hair flowing, begins the incantation for her most powerful spell. Her eyes glow with power as she speaks the final words, her hands held ready. She unleashes her ultimate technique, the freezing coffin, upon the monstrous foe. The demon's powerful leg is instantly encased in a thick layer of magical ice. Its massive arm is also frozen solid, its movements completely halted by the spell. The gigant demon is trapped, a grotesque statue within a prison of jagged ice. The adventurers cheer, amazed by the guild master's incredible power and perfect timing. Ataru is impressed by her skill, befitting the legendary S-rank adventurer of Lif. Franfiria credits Ataru, saying she could only do it because she trusted his power. Ataru turns to the others, telling them their long-awaited turn has finally arrived. Basta watches, his expression a mixture of awe and renewed, fierce determination. Mero looks on, his face a mask of shock and giddy excitement at the opportunity. Why, the mage, nervously prepares herself for the final, decisive assault. The three adventurers, Basta, Mero, and Y, steel themselves for the charge. Basta calls out to Y, who nervously stammers that she is ready for battle. He then calls to Mero, who responds with a confident grin and a firm yes. Basta roars that it's time for them to go and unleash their true power. The A-rank swordsman, Basta, prepares to strike the frozen, vulnerable gigant demon. The B-rank spear user, Mero, stands ready to support his leader in the attack. Basta declares that with the beast frozen, they can finally land a direct hit. Their target is clear, the demon's left chest, where its magic core is hidden. The demon's clawed hand twitches within the ice, a hint of its lingering power. Basta is shocked as the beast begins to shatter its icy prison with sheer force. With a surge of incredible strength, the demon's arm breaks free from the ice. Basta exclaims in disbelief as the arm swings free, ready to intercept his attack. Mero leaps forward, telling Basta to leave it to him as he blocks the blow. He brings his spear down with all his might against the demon's powerful arm. With a fierce battle cry, Mero's attack connects, momentarily stunning the limb. The blow staggers the arm, but the demon's raw strength is simply too much. Mero is thrown back by the overwhelming force of the demon's counterattack. He entrusts the next move to Y, who nervously agrees to take over. Y raises her staff, calling upon the Holy Spirit of Thunder for its power. She tearfully begs the spirit to lend her its strength for this crucial moment. Her staff crackles with an intense electrical energy, ready to be unleashed. She casts her Thunderstrike spell, sending a bolt of lightning at the demon. The lightning engulfs the demon's arm, sending a paralyzing jolt through it. Y notes with relief that her attack is effective against the Earth attribute demon. Basta leaps into the air, praising his companions for their excellent teamwork. He declares that the outcome of the battle now rests entirely on his shoulders. He grips the hilt of his legendary sword, preparing to unleash his ultimate attack. The cross-shaped guard of his sword gleams as he channels his power into it. The power concentrates at the tip of the blade, crackling and ready to strike. Gritting his teeth, Basta unleashes his ultimate technique, the Gladios Meteor. He brings the sword down, a meteor of pure energy striking the demon's chest. The attack connects in a blinding flash of light that engulfs the battlefield. Basta roars that if an A-rank adventurer like him can't finish it, no one can. Y and Marrow look on, their faces filled with shock and awe at the display. The force of the explosion throws Basta backward, his armor and cloak tearing. He is sent flying through the air by the overwhelming backlash of his own power. His companions rush to his side, desperately asking if he is all right. Basta, struggling to his feet, asks what happened to the Gigant demon. The smoke clears to reveal his legendary sword embedded deep in the demon's chest. The massive creature stands silently, impaled by the glowing, holy blade. The sword itself shows a small crack from the sheer force of the impact. Y stammers that the sword has pierced the demon's seemingly impenetrable hide. The three adventurers begin to cheer, believing they have finally won the battle. They shout in triumph, convinced that they have at last defeated the Gigant demon. Frenfiria watches the scene unfold, a subtle, knowing look on her face. Ataru, however, calmly states that their premature celebration is a classic death flag. The demon's massive hand reaches up, its claws closing around the sword's hilt. With a surge of power, it begins to pull the blade from its own chest. The demon stands tall, sword in hand, as the wound begins to magically close. Basta cries out in disbelief, realizing his ultimate attack has failed. He realizes with horror the sword didn't reach the core, asking how it's possible. The demon's hand begins to glow with a dark, corrupting, malevolent energy. It roars, confused why its wounds aren't healing, unaware of Ataru's interference. Y realizes it is converting its remaining life force into a final, dark spell. Basta and Marrow are shocked, asking what this means for them and the city. Frenfiria explains that if the spell is unleashed, the entire region will be cursed. The land will become a demonic wasteland, uninhabitable for hundreds of years. A powerful, ominous aura radiates from the demon as it prepares its final attack. Frenfiria looks on, her expression a mixture of exhaustion and grave concern. Ataru sighs in exasperation, knowing he must now clean up this disastrous mess. Days later, at the Lif Guild Hall, the results of the battle are posted. A massive crowd of adventurers has gathered to see the final rankings. Kiero is ranked 10th with 43 kills, earning a special promotion to D rank. Other adventurers congratulate her, impressed by her skill, and ask her to party up. Marrow and Y praise her, noting her amazing results as Ataru's companion. Kiero humbly insists it was only thanks to Ataru's support, not her own strength. Marrow looks on, touched by her humility and deep loyalty to her partner. He notices Basta staring intently at the board and asks him what is wrong. Marrow praises Basta's second-place rank, asking if he's shocked by his own score. An adventurer in the guild hall stares at the results board, muttering that the numbers must be a mistake. The board reveals the impossible truth: Ataru, an F rank, is in first place with 302 kills. Kiero, her face beaming with pure joy, exclaims that his incredible performance was just as she expected. Ataru praises Kiero for her own impressive battle record, and she thanks him with a shy smile. They share a celebratory high-five, Ataru commenting on how well their teamwork is developing. He notes that with their new, higher ranks, the range of quests they can accept will surely expand. Kiero, filled with excitement and gratitude, declares that this is all thanks to him having saved her. The surrounding adventurers begin to murmur amongst themselves, their gazes filled with suspicion and jealousy. Sensing the hostile atmosphere, Ataru quietly asks Kiero if this is what he thinks it is. She confirms his fears, explaining that for a rookie to score double an A-rank's kills is unheard of. Ataru reflects that he hadn't meant to stand out, but he lost track of his own power in the chaos. From the balcony above, the guild master, Frenfiria, lets out a soft, knowing chuckle at the scene. She claps her hands sharply, the sound echoing through the hall and silencing the murmuring crowd. Frenfiria formally announces Ataru's first-place finish, a result that proves his decisive victory in the wager. Just as she is about to declare him the winner of the bet, Ataru's voice cuts in, asking her to wait. He and Kiero stand in the center of the hall, now the focus of every adventurer's attention. Frenfiria looks down from the grand staircase, her expression questioning his sudden interruption. The other adventurers are stunned into silence by his boldness in stopping the guild master mid-speech. Ataru addresses the entire guild, asking if they can simply call off the bet he made. Franferia, slightly taken aback by his request, asks him to explain what he means. He explains that he accepted the bet in the heat of the moment and has no desire for further conflict. He says what truly matters is that they all work together as a guild to save the city. Franferia confirms his intention to forfeit the prize money, acknowledging his right as the winner to do so. Ataru agrees with a simple smile, saying that their shared victory is more than enough for him. An adventurer in the crowd suggests they use the prize money for a celebratory feast for everyone instead. Kiero looks on, her eyes shining with pride and admiration for Ataru's gracious decision. Franferia instructs the receptionist, Balara, to bring the formal contract over to Ataru. Balara presents the signed parchment to Ataru, who accepts it with a quiet nod of thanks. Ataru holds the formal contract in his hands, with Kiero looking on with a happy, knowing smile. In a single, decisive gesture of unity, Ataru rips the formal contract completely in two. He raises his arm in victory, and the entire guild hall erupts in a massive, unified cheer. Balara announces the start of reward distribution, directing the adventurers to their respective rank counters. Ataru turns to Kiero, wondering aloud which counter they should be lining up at now. Just as they are about to move, Franferia's voice calls out from the side, asking them to wait. She explains that she has something important to discuss and summons them both to her private room. Ataru and Kiero exchange a look, wondering what the guild master could possibly want with them now. They are led into her opulent and finely decorated private office, a quiet sanctuary. Franferia stirs her tea, the clinking of the spoon signaling the beginning of their serious discussion. She begins by stating that Kiero will receive her reward as specified, just like the other adventurers. The real issue, she explains, is determining the proper reward for Ataru's unprecedented performance. Ataru worries that he might have overdone it, and Kiero quietly agrees he went a little far. Franferia clarifies that his high score isn't the problem, there is another, more important issue to discuss. Ataru looks confused, asking what other problem there could possibly be beyond the reward. She points a finger at him, declaring that he was the one who delivered the finishing blow to the Gigant Demon. Ataru tries to downplay his role, insisting it was a victory for the entire team, not just him. She is resolute, stating that the battle could not have been won without him, a fact everyone knows. Kiero listens with concern as the conversation turns to Ataru's additional, and surely massive, reward. Franferia explains that the unprecedented disaster has strained the guild's finances, making it difficult to pay him. Ataru casually waves it off, telling her to simply pay what she can, as he doesn't mind. She replies that while she appreciates the offer, her own pride as guild master will not allow it. Instead of money, she offers him a unique and powerful reward, a taste of her own spirit. Sometime later, the battered Rosric confronts them, sneering that they must have thought him dead in the battle. Kiero looks on, recognizing the troublemakers who had challenged them before the fight. Covered in bandages, Rosric and his crew dramatically declare that they have returned from the depths of hell. The three thuggish adventurers step forward, blocking Ataru and Kiero's path on the city street. Ataru stares at them blankly, his mind drawing a complete blank as to who they are. Kiero quietly reminds him that they were the D-rank adventurers who had challenged them to a bet. Rosric explodes in rage when Ataru wonders aloud if they always looked so battered and bruised. He grumbles under his breath, frustrated that he had actually come all this way to offer his thanks. Ataru is genuinely surprised, repeating the word thanks as if he misheard it. One of the men explains that Ataru canceling the bet was a huge help to them financially. Rosric admits that if the bet had stood, they would have been injured and utterly ruined. Ataru explains that he never really cared for the prize money and only accepted to end the argument. He says their true priority was protecting the city, a victory that all the adventurers shared together. He sternly tells them to never do something so unjust again, and a humbled Rosric agrees. Kiero watches the exchange, a little confused by the sudden and dramatic change in their attitude. One of the men tries to explain that they were on edge because they had a big, important quest lined up. Rosric grumbles about their debts, still amazed that an adventurer as powerful as Ataru was only an F rank. He smirks, saying that after their performance, he can now accept their extraordinary promotions to B and D rank. Ataru dismisses his own success, simply saying that it was all just a matter of coincidence. Rosric refuses to accept this, declaring with conviction that his own eyes cannot be deceived. He throws his head back and screams, trying to emphasize his point with raw emotion. Suddenly, a group of angry merchants spots the trio from across the street, pointing them out. The merchants angrily demand that the adventurers finally pay their long overdue and substantial tabs. Panicked, Rosric tells his crew to run, shouting a hasty and awkward goodbye to Ataru. They flee down the street, pursued by the mob of merchants who vow not to let them escape their debts. Ataru wryly notes that their reward money is probably already gone, and Kero giggles in agreement. Ataru decides it's time to head to Bob's weapon shop to finish their own business. The weaponsmith Bob's greets them with a booming voice, having already heard of their splendid success. Bob's enthusiastically invites them to get outfitted at his shop in preparation for their next big adventure. Ataru points out a short sword with a special aura, which Bob's confirms is a dwarven masterpiece. Kero feels a strange, nostalgic connection to the blade, which Bob's finds interesting. Kero shyly remembers that she needs to buy replacements for the throwing knives she broke in the battle. As they browse the shop, Ataru calls out to Kero, his tone suddenly serious. He asks her if events like the recent, devastating monster stampede are a common occurrence. Kero explains that, as far as she knows, such an organized attack on a city is extremely rare. She adds that a stampede of this particular magnitude is a cataclysmic event, happening only once every few centuries. Ataru processes this, then asks her about the final, most powerful monster they faced. She speculates that the Gigant demon likely originated from the mythical and dangerous demon realm. Ataru repeats the term, completely unfamiliar with the concept of a demon realm. She explains it is a distant, almost legendary land ruled by demons, though its true location is unknown. Ataru realizes that if such creatures can travel from another world, they would destroy everything in their path. He falls silent, looking down as he considers the grave and terrifying implications of her words. Noticing her sudden silence, Ataru turns and gently asks Kero if something is wrong. She admits her regret, feeling that the city was only saved by the presence of the high-ranked adventurers. She wishes she had been stronger and more skilled, believing she could have helped him more. She clutches her new sword hilt tightly, wishing she could have been more useful to him in the final fight. A gloved hand gently comes to rest on her head, startling her from her regretful thoughts. He tells her not to regret what she couldn't do, reminding her that she kept her promise to him. He asks her to recall the important promise they made to each other just before the great battle began. Kero makes a firm promise, her cheeks flushed with resolve. She vows to never again need the aid of a healing bullet. Ataru recalls his promise to Kero, clasping her hand in his. He tells her not to dwell on failures, but to be proud of their accomplishments. He is taken aback by her sudden, emotional reaction. Kero looks up at him, her eyes shining with renewed determination. Ataru advises her not to rush, as many things are currently beyond her reach. He suggests they should just keep building on what they can already do. Kero thoughtfully repeats his words, a gentle smile spreading across her face. He glances back with a smile, saying things will work out as they should. Overwhelmed by his kindness, Kero covers her deeply blushing face. He pays for the new sword and 3 knives, the shopkeeper thanking him. Birds soar gracefully through a wide, cloud-dappled sky. Kero's voice wonders aloud about their next destination. They arrive at a grand estate, the place Ataru wished to visit. Ataru asks if she recognizes the place, she thinks she might know. The gate guard recognizes Ataru and panics, shouting for his comrade. The guard insists on letting them in, following Lord Grain's orders. The guard offers an escort, but Ataru prefers to walk through the gardens. Kero looks on, a little surprised by the formal reception they are receiving. They walk together through the beautiful, sunlit garden, past a fountain. The two adventurers stroll along the path of the manicured estate gardens. Kero marvels at the vast garden, asking if he visits often. He explains this is only his second visit, the first being before he met her. Ataru looks ahead and remarks that their welcome party has arrived. Lord Grain welcomes Ataru with open arms, Gil standing formally beside him. He invites them inside, having heard they registered with the guild. Arshuna's voice calls out as Ataru confirms Kero's guess about the Lord. Lord Grain scolds his daughter, while Gil apologizes for her outburst. Arshuna rushes forward, beaming as she exclaims she has been waiting. Kero watches the scene unfold with a quiet, observant expression. As the mansion is shown, Grain recalls hearing of the fierce battle. Grain explains he was worried, as accurate information was scarce during the chaos. Grain expresses his relief, and Ataru thanks him for the helpful reward. Grain offers more gold, but Ataru firmly refuses the payment. Ataru's expression is resolute as he turns down the Lord's offer. Arshuna happily thanks him, and he notes she seems to be doing well. A brief focus is placed on Arshuna's long, well-kept hair. Arshuna's attention shifts, her gaze falling upon Kero. Ataru places a hand on her shoulder, introducing Kero as his partner. Kero looks up with a slightly startled, yet curious, expression. Ataru explains that their initial help is what allowed him to meet Kero. Kero gives a flustered bow, introducing herself as Ataru's attendant. She asks them to forgive her, as she doesn't know proper etiquette. Lord Grain laughs warmly, assuring her that her feelings were conveyed. Lord Grain takes her hands, formally welcoming her to his home. He calls her a precious guest, since she is the companion of his savior. Lord Grain formally introduces his only daughter, Arshuna. He then introduces the family's attendant, the ever-proper Gil. Grain invites them all to relax, as they have much to discuss. Kiero looks on with a slightly startled and nervous expression. Arshuna watches the scene with a gentle and welcoming expression. Arshuna gently asks Kiero to please come with her. Ataru graciously accepts their hospitality, much to Kiero's surprise. The group sits comfortably in the lavish drawing room, enjoying tea. Arshuna expresses her shock that a gigant demon actually appeared. Gil wipes his brow, visibly stressed by the recent events. A teacup rattles in its saucer, betraying someone's shock. Gil asks if he defeated the demon. Ataru says he wasn't alone. Lord Grain leans back, remarking that the story is still astounding. Gil marvels that Ataru was promoted to B rank so quickly. He adds that Kiero's D rank promotion is also incredibly rare. Lord Grain recalls that he too was an adventurer in his youth. He admits he retired early from D rank to avoid losing his life. Grain notes that the guild master's trust comes with great expectations. He explains that a higher rank brings more difficult and lucrative quests. Gil explains to Kiero that rank also elevates one's social standing. This elevated status leads to power, influence, and connections with nobility. Ataru looks annoyed, saying he would rather refuse those kinds of requests. Kiero asks if there are penalties for refusing compulsory quests from nobles. Lord Grain laughs, admiring Ataru's independent and defiant spirit. He reassures them that an adventurer is free to refuse any quest. He begins to explain the guild's history as a neutral organization. He recounts the tale of the first guild master, who won its freedom. Thus, the title of adventurer became a symbol of freedom. Gil adds that this is a famous legend among aspiring adventurers. Grain explains that this spirit of freedom is passed down to all guild masters. Ataru recalls an image of Frenferia, understanding her independent nature. Ataru turns his attention to Arshuna, who has something to say. Arshuna notes that Kiero's beautiful hair seems a little tangled. She asks if Kiero would be willing to let her brush it in her room. Ataru encourages a flustered Kiero to accept the kind invitation. Arshuna happily says she will borrow Kiero for a little while. Lord Grain and Gil watch them leave, hoping they will become friends. Ataru realizes this is a perfect opportunity to speak with the Lord. He explains he has questions that are vital for their future adventures. The scene shifts to Arshuna's incredibly lavish and ornate bedchamber. Arshuna senses Kiero's nervousness and gently guides her to a chair. An ornate brush glides smoothly through Kiero's long, silky hair. Arshuna admires Kiero's hair, calling it incredibly beautiful. Kiero blushes deeply, whispering a shy thank you for the compliment. The gentle, rhythmic brushing continues in the quiet room. Kiero looks up in alarm, sensing a sudden, strange presence. The ornate brush pauses mid-stroke as Kiero calls Arshuna's name. Suddenly, Arshuna wraps her arms around Kiero in a tight embrace. Kiero's mind short-circuits, her eyes swirling with panic and confusion. Arshuna continues to hold the completely frozen and bewildered Kiero. A silent scream of utter shock echoes out from the grand mansion. A ball bounces and rolls to a stop on an old cobblestone path. A small, delicate hand reaches down to pick up the waiting ball. In a sun-dappled garden, a young girl thanks her friend for the ball. A hopeful, surprised gasp escapes young Arshuna as she's invited to play. A stern attendant appears, telling Lady Arshuna that she must not join them. She reminds Arshuna of her high station as the daughter of House Grain. Arshuna looks down, told that she must endure her stifling, restricted life. She forces a smile, saying that she understands her duties, addressing Marie. Her attendant calls her to the carriage, reminding her of her piano lesson. From the carriage window, little Arshuna gazes back with a lonely expression. She watches the other children holding hands, playing happily in a circle. The children laugh and hug, a perfect picture of simple, carefree joy. In the present, Arshuna's hands gently but firmly grip Kiero's shoulders. The vanity mirror reflects Arshuna embracing a very startled and flustered Kiero. Their eyes meet in the reflection, Arshuna shocked, Kiero's head spinning. Realization dawns, and Arshuna leaps back with a panicked, sudden movement. She covers her mouth, mortified, and stammers out Kiero's name in apology. Kiero, her face flushed and eyes swirling, is utterly bewildered by the act. Arshuna panics, wondering aloud what possessed her to do such a thing. Kiero quickly insists it's fine, saying she should be the one to apologize. Arshuna apologizes profusely, but Kiero reassures her that everything is okay. The noblewoman is overcome by a fit of coughing as Kiero calls out. Kero rushes to her side, offering to call Gil for assistance. Arshuna apologizes again, this time for startling her with the sudden hug. She admits to herself that she is actually aware of her true feelings. She confesses that she has wanted to embrace Kero since they first met. Seeing Kero with Ataru, she thought she was a dazzling, different adventurer. She found Kero beautiful and cute, and immediately wanted to be her friend. She laments that she no longer knows how to properly interact with friends. Overcome with embarrassment, Arshuna hides her face, ashamed of her forwardness. Kero, unsure what to do, tentatively tries to get her attention. Kero admits that she is very happy to hear Arshuna's true feelings. Blushing, she bravely tells Arshuna to please do as she wishes. Arshuna is touched by her words, her face flushing with shy happiness. She hesitates, saying she cannot possibly trouble Kero any further. Kero insists with all her heart that it is not a bother at all. Arshuna covers her face again, feeling that this whole situation is wrong. Kero looks on with concern, gently asking what the matter is. Peeking through her fingers, Arshuna's face is a mask of shy emotion. Kero watches her, her own face flushed and beaded with nervous sweat. Arshuna takes a single, hesitant step forward, closing the space between them. She pulls Kero into a second, more deliberate and heartfelt embrace. Arshuna thinks Kero is completely different from the adventurers she had imagined. She whispers that Kero feels gentle and is, as she thought, very cute. Held close in the embrace, Kero quietly thanks her for the kind words. She admits that being held by Arshuna feels wonderfully warm and calming. A strange, nostalgic feeling washes over her, like a distant, hazy memory. In her mind, a soft, forgotten voice seems to whisper her name. The voice speaks of our precious. Amidst a brilliant, hazy light, the memory continues, calling her our beloved treasure. From long ago. A woman holds a baby Kero, praying for her eternal, lasting happiness. Kero's eyes well up with tears as she feels this forgotten love. The tears begin to stream down her flushed cheeks, an emotional release. Arshuna looks down with concern, her eyes soft as she says Kero's name. Her own eyes fill with tears of empathy for her newfound friend. The two hold each other tightly, a silent, powerful bond forming. In the grand room, two lonely souls find solace and friendship together. The sun shines on the magnificent exterior of the sprawling grain mansion. Arshuna and Kero burst into the main hall, calling out to Ataru. Arshuna asks if he would please permit Kero to stay for the night. Ataru agrees, saying he doesn't mind, and asks for Lord Grain's opinion. The Lord happily invites them to stay for as long as they wish. Kero and Arshuna clasp hands, their faces beaming with shared, innocent joy. Night falls on the mansion as the moon shines through an ornate window. Arshuna and Kero sleep peacefully side by side in the same large bed. In his own room, Ataru rests, his story continuing in the next installment. Arshuna and Kero are shown sleeping soundly together under the covers. Ataru is also asleep in his bed, the chapter title displayed below. The bright moon shines through the grand window of the guest room. Suddenly, in the darkness of the night, Ataru's eye snaps open. He sits up, looking around in confusion, wondering where he is. He is in his old room, the walls gruesomely splattered with blood. He leaps to his feet in shock, letting out a silent, horrified cry. He stares at the horrific scene, trying to understand what is happening. A familiar, chuckling voice greets him, saying it has been a while. The elderly, robed figure appears, reintroducing himself as the being called God. Ataru asks if he has returned to the place where he was murdered. God says he has watched Ataru's progress and is immensely proud of him. Ataru cuts to the chase, asking why God has summoned him here. God smiles, explaining that he has a special proposal for Ataru. He lists Ataru's incredible achievements, from defeating monsters to his battle rank. As a special, one-time reward, he offers to craft a new weapon. Ataru repeats the words, confused by the offer to create a weapon. He agrees it would be helpful, as God confirms it's a special offer. God explains that the rifle is ill-suited for dangerous close-quarters combat. Ataru recalls his previous close encounters, acknowledging the weapon's limitations. He knows that in a tight space, the rifle is just a clumsy club. God tells him he will study up on various things for the future. A large, semi-automatic handgun appears as God asks for his opinion. Ataru looks at the new weapon, calmly identifying it as a handgun. God enthusiastically recommends this type, explaining its magical properties. He winks knowingly, saying he understands Ataru's particular tastes and preferences. He details the automatic reload mechanism, triggered by a simple magic chant. He adds that it can be loaded with special healing or fire bullets. He cocks the hammer with a satisfying click to demonstrate its feel. He racks the slide with a sharp, mechanical sound, showing its action. Grinning, he asks if the action isn't great, declaring this is it. Ataru strokes his chin, looking thoughtful and somewhat less than impressed. God is flustered, asking if this weapon is not to Ataru's liking. He looks crestfallen, completely baffled by Ataru's subdued reaction. Ataru quietly says, "That's right?" As a different idea begins to form. He asks God what he would think of a double-action revolver instead. God, sweating and looking utterly bewildered, asks what double action could possibly mean. Ataru patiently gestures, trying to explain the simple mechanics of firing a gun. As Ataru gives up, an intrigued God insists they have another design meeting. Resigned, Ataru agrees to the session, knowing time in this space is meaningless. His expression is firm, determined to get the exact custom weapon he wants. Ataru awakens with a jolt in his bed, certain the divine encounter wasn't a dream. He rises and sees a modern, hardshell gun case resting on a nearby table. Examining his new revolver, he remarks that God certainly works very quickly. From the Grand Mansion's balcony, Arshuna sadly wishes Ataru didn't have to depart. Her father, Lord Grain, says they must send the adventurers off with warm wishes. Arshuna smiles, graciously apologizing for her selfish desire for them to stay longer. Ataru reassures her, while Kiero asks if she may also offer her own farewell. Kiero formally addresses their hosts, thanking them for their incredible kindness and hospitality. She performs a perfect, graceful curtsy, wishing them well until they meet again. Lord Grain and Gil are visibly stunned and impressed by her newfound courtly manners. Ataru compliments her excellent greeting, causing a happy, nervous blush to appear. Lord Grain advises Kiero to continue supporting Ataru with confidence on their journey. He then asks that she remain a good friend to Arshuna and visit anytime. Kiero, moved by his kind words, promises to take his encouragement to heart. Gil offers to give her lessons in proper etiquette on her next visit. Arshuna warmly calls out to her new friend, drawing Kiero to her side. She tells Kiero that her adventure stories were so thrilling they felt real. With earnest eyes, she insists that Kiero must return, it is a friend's promise. Kiero, with tears of joy, promises Arshuna that she will definitely return. Having made her promise, Arshuna turns her hopeful gaze toward Ataru. She wistfully says that she hopes one day her own wishes may come true. Her eyes are filled with a quiet, powerful hope for her own future adventures. She smiles warmly, wishing them a safe journey until they can meet again. Ataru gives a rare, gentle smile and wishes her well in return. As they depart, he calls out a final, cheerful farewell to their new friends. Walking away from the city, Kiero asks Ataru what their next task will be. Learning they must go to the guild, Kiero marches ahead with renewed excitement. Ataru stops her, his voice serious, saying there's one important thing to do first. Kiero turns back to him, her cheerful expression shifting to one of concern. He explains that he has a serious concern about the magic weapon he gave her. He acknowledges its power is far greater than expected and that she handles it well. But he fears that if she continues using it, something terrible is bound to happen.